So Destiny debated an INFOWARS host. So it isn't Alex Jones, but it's Owen Shroyer, who is the co-host of the INFOWARS show. He currently lost a lawsuit for defamation, and he got hit pretty hard over it around the 2022 election and lies around it. He is somebody who's on the show pushing many of the same stories that Alex Jones is, so a lot of nonsensical disinformation. But, you know, I don't think right now is the time for me to nitpick through a bunch of INFOWARS Live about X, Y, and Z. I think it's better to just let the debate speak for itself. I saw a lot of clips of it on Twitter. I saw that Destiny's fan base was really hyped about how it went. I saw Owen Shroyer still said that he thinks he won, but the internet seems to disagree. And so I'm coming in from already seeing that reaction. So, you know, I've already been influenced to some degree, but I haven't watched the whole debate. I've only seen clips. And so I'm excited to watch it. I don't know if we're going to watch all of it, but we'll see how much we can get done. Let's check it out.
Was the vote certification delayed on January 6th?
No, it went through.
You guys...
Yes, sorry, we're watching the intro, but of course it was. Of course it was delayed. If it wasn't delayed, that means when the protesters, the rioters, when they got into Congress, like, you would have still seen Mike Pence at the podium. You would have still seen him certified. They had to shut down Congress and suspend it in order for them to leave. I did the intro. I shouldn't start saying stuff already.
We can watch you guys cheering for it. We can watch you cheering 1776. What was 1776?
I know you hate 1776.
Wait,
I know you hate
what
that.
was 1776? What was that?
That was the founding of the country.
Which was it? What was the event? What would you call that?
When we overthrew royalty and created
against the government, would you call it
a constitutional republic.
Would you call that an insurrection?
No. This is your Democrat voter right here. Nobody wants to be a part of this psychotic movement anymore.
Psychotic movement when you guys literally tried. You guys invaded the Capitol.
Your side believes in trans kids.
Who wants to
Your side wants to pay for trans surgeries in the prisons.
You guys
Your side lets in 10 million illegal immigrants. Your side starts wars all over the world. Our side is the party of sanity and the party of common sense. And if you can't see that in this debate, then you're never going to see it.
You're never going to. The party of sanity is the party that doesn't believe in dinosaurs and thinks that we create hurricanes.
What are you talking about?
Do you believe in dinosaurs? You think
what is this dinosaurs?
Wait,
what are you talking about dinosaurs?
Do you think the dinosaurs ever roamed the earth?
Dinosaur toys?
Do you think the
Why
dinosaurs,
are you bringing this up?
Do you think the dinosaurs ever roamed the earth?
Is that a dinosaur on your necklace right there? What is that?
Do you think the dinosaurs roamed the earth?
I'm not here to talk about dinosaurs.
My God, what a mega compilation.
Speech here, but then I realized that MAGA conservatives don't really care about facts, so I figured I'd just keep it short and simple so we can get to the crossfire section. I think the argument for Kamala over Trump is pretty simple. I think the number one point that everybody should keep in mind is Trump is a loser. He lost elections. He lost candidates that he supported lost elections. He's lost court cases. He's now a convicted felon. He has lost almost three wives. We'll see what Melania does after the current election season ends. He has lost businesses. He's filed bankruptcies. He's basically lost in every single way that you can conceive a person could lose. He's lost as a leader. He wasn't able to pass any legislation. He wasn't able to do anything about the ACA. Just like Sean's not able to do anything about this mic feedback. He's working on it. Trump is just, even if you support the policies ostensibly that Trump stands for, although that might change from one day to the next, he might come into office saying that he wants to destroy the ACA, fail to do that, and then now try to take credit for pre-existing conditions or price capping insulin. Even if you support him for whatever policies he says he does support, he's not the guy to do it. He couldn't do it when he was in office for 4 years. I don't know why we think he would do it in another 4 years. I always thought that the funniest slogan that Donald Trump had was using "Make America Great Again" the second time he ran for office. What happened? I think that Kamala Harris is a winner. People might try to say that she slept her way to the top or make other weird accusations of nepotism, like what plagued Trump's administration. But the reality is, Kamala Harris got elected not once, not twice, not 3 times, 4 or 5 times if you count her being on the VP ticket. She won her election for a district attorney in San Francisco. She won 2 elections for attorney general in California. She was elected the junior senator of California, and she was the vice president on the ticket with Biden. So the difference is clear. Trump takes absolutely no accountability for any of his actions, and the people around him know that they have no accountability for any of his actions. When Donald Trump does a crime, what does he say? He says the judges are biased against me in every state court, in all the federal court.
He said he'd keep it short, but this isn't short. But I think it's good he didn't keep it short. I mean, he's going into it, and he's establishing narratives early.
says that I need immunity from criminal activity because I can't be prosecuted for it. I'm the president. He apparently believes that he can psychically declassify documents so that he can avoid responsibility for hiding stuff in his shoddy residence in Mar-a-Lago. There is just zero accountability anywhere. When you look at Trump and you say, why did you fail as a leader? Well, it was because of the swamp. Look at all these people I had to fire. Dude, you hired them. You can't take credit for firing people that were part of your cabinet. These are your picks. And again, to return to the first point, what's going to change this time? Is he going to magically get rid of the swamp now? He couldn't do it in 4 years. We're supposed to believe he can do it in 4 more. Even if you're a conservative, why would you think that Donald Trump is the guy that's going to get the job done for you? Kamala Harris is accountable. Not only did she rise through the ranks and win elections on her own, by her own merit, not through any weird conspiratorial nonsense, not through any crazy MAGA movement, not by partnering up with creepy weirdo billionaires like Elon Musk, but by winning her elections and doing a good job. You can also see that the Democratic Party holds their own accountable, and they have a wide tent of voters that they draw from that they have to maintain their accountability to, as opposed to Trump's camp that is dwindling by the day, who, we can go to the people who support Trump, maybe that'll come up at some point here. No one around Trump vouches for him. Where is Pence? How do you have a president who was the president of the United States with a vice president who's not running with the same vice president? What happened to him? Well, what happened to him was Trump was kind of hoping he would get killed on January 6th. He sat there and he watched on TV for 3 hours while people like Owen cheered others going into the Capitol, rioting, delaying the certification of the vote. He sat there and he watched it happen. He tweeted out that Pence failed us while Pence was in a bunker underneath the Capitol, saying that he didn't want to leave the Capitol because he didn't want rioters and people around the world to see that the American election, that the American transfer of power had been disrupted by a bunch of MAGA sycophants.
1 second. We've got the air raid stuff going off again. I'm checking if it's going on or off. No, it's going on. You can hear it right now, I think, in the background a little bit. Can you guys hear it? I think you can. But man, it's close enough to me. I'm not going to say how close that it's impossible to ignore, which is good. It's good that I can hear it, but man, it does get annoying. It does. But, you know, you need the warning. Anyway, you can't hear it. You can't hear it. Okay, 1 second. Can you hear it now? Do you hear it now? I don't know if you still hear it or not. You should be able to hear it while I'm talking because I have a noise gate on. At least slightly in the background. Anyway. No? Well, too bad.
The comments of even the people that are considered Trump's most ardent supporters today are comments that would get you laughed at if you made them as a leftist, right? You have a bunch of other comments. Elon Musk called Trump a stone-cold loser when he refused to say that he lost the 2020 election. Vance has a number of quotes about Trump. He wasn't sure if he was I think just a Nixon-type character or if he was going to be America's Hitler. These are statements from his own current vice presidential running mate because he can't use Pence again because Pence hates him. Again, this is his vice president. Mark Milley referred to Donald Trump as a fascist. You've got all these people in his administration that were thought to have been the biggest supporters of Trump, people that others were worried about, like Bill Barr, who resigned from the administration with weeks to go before the transfer of power because they couldn't stand him trying to weaponize the Department of Justice so much. And then you look on the other side and you've got Kamala Harris, who has support all the way from Cheney to AOC, from the United Auto Workers to Taylor Swift. There's no comparison to be made between what people around these people are saying. There's no other industry where you would say, oh, that guy, his boss hates him and all of his coworkers hate him and everybody that worked with before hates him, but this time he's going to have a whole new set of employees. He's going to have a whole new boss, a whole new organization. It'll be way better this time, I promise. You would never give anybody that kind of chance. Trump is a scammer. Why would you want to, like, this guy who's running for office is selling you pieces of how many suits? How many fucking suits does this guy own? He can sell you like so many different slices of them. Jesus Christ. $5,000 suit pieces. My God. I mean, at least he's big enough now that I guess he's got a lot of suit pieces to sell. That's not including the $100,000 gold watches. That's not including the $3,500 gold coins, the $100 silver coins, this whole new crypto. Every day. Sorry to ignore this. I think Destiny's doing a good job with the intro. He said it was going to be short. This isn't short. He's kind of like hitting all of the bases here. He's putting out so much it's going to be hard for his opponent to respond to it all, which he probably won't. Probably try to establish his own narrative, which is to be expected. But I think he's doing pretty well. I think touching on like Trump's personal scamming of his own fans, of his own audience, like his crypto stuff and crazy stuff there, his watch stuff, and the little disclaimers about doesn't need to be exactly as is displayed and stuff like that. And all the money just goes straight to him. It's not even for his campaign. I think touching on that stuff, which most Americans don't know about,
You know, there's a personal integrity thing that it just people, when they hear that, if he's scamming his own followers, if he's scamming his biggest supporters, how is he gonna, you know, what is he gonna do with your vote and your trust? You know, there's a basic trust question. You can hear it now? Okay, good. I just turned off the noise suppression.
Scam that he started where him and his cronies have 70% of the initial coin.
A hot chocolate and stay safe. Remember, holidays are soon.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
If you don't know, you'll learn in the future because it's coming out for the IPO for this coin. That's called a rug pull, my friends. That coin is going to come out, and the price on that is going to go up and then super down as everybody that buys in gets scammed and loses all their money, which is, I guess, an analogy for all the Trump supporters that I guess exist today. Trump has no policies. We don't get to have policy debate in the United States anymore because instead we're talking about fictitious hurricanes.
If you're curious what it is, it's UAVs, so probably Shahed drones, which I've heard are now flying higher and farther than they used to. But I've also heard that the Ukrainians are doing stuff to counter it. But point is, Shahed drones, which are Iranian drones, which I think they're still being manufactured and sent over from Iran. But I think mostly now it's being made domestically in Russia. But it is an Iranian design.
Hurricane machines that are being spun up so that Biden or Harris can steal the lithium deposits from North Carolina. We don't get to talk about how Roy Cooper and Kemp and McMaster and DeSantis all said, DeSantis called me. He already called me. The federal government's doing everything they can do. Instead, you've got people that are fighting with FEMA now outside their houses because they don't trust the government response. And then you've got Donald Trump on TV saying that he would withhold aid from states like California if they don't play ball with him, they don't play politics with him. It's insane. Every accusation that the Conservative Party makes is a confession to their own amoral behavior, and you can see it on TV. These aren't even things that we have to dig for. You can just watch what they say openly. I think that Kamala Harris is just a better leader in every possible measure that you can make when it comes to, I think, leading the United States, when it comes to the future of this country. I think she's got a better vision for America. I think she's got a better record. Despite the claims of being a DEI candidate, she's infinitely more qualified for the position than Donald Trump is. And I think that she has a better overall plan for America than Trump does, whose plan, as far as I can tell right now, consists of basically shitposting on X and I guess doing a 20% tariff across the board. My final quote, I would like to leave this quote from a very famous Biden speech that he made in 2022 that I think fits today more than ever. MAGA Republicans have made their choice. They embrace anger. They thrive on chaos. They live not in the light of truth, but in the shadow of lies. But together we can choose a different path. We can choose a better path forward to the future, a future of possibility, a future to build, a future to dream, and a future to hope.
Even with the
and I think that Kamala
quote,
Harris represents that hope way more than Donald Trump, who only seems to be
glazing.
interested in tearing down and attacking Americans rather than building anything great up.
Legendary Blaze.
Opening Stephen.
I well, watching the Destiny debate would be a way to go.
We'll kick it over to Owen.
Would be
Thank you very
an end to
much.
suffering
The floor
quick.
is all yours now, Owen, for 7 minutes for your opening.
They pulled his mic. Yeah, sabotage. Left-wing saboteurs. No, you can't hear a thing.
Every time.
There we go.
Sabotage me everywhere.
There we go.
Damn it, Kamala. Just every time. They just sabotage me everywhere I go. Check.
He's on the clock. Take off his time. Take off his time. Ruthless. Ruthless. Let's have his time gone. Speed it up.
He starts off his opening statement saying MAGA people don't care about facts. We'll see who cares about facts during the course of this debate.
Oh.
Then you
Oh boy, the INFOWARS guy. Yeah, he cares about facts. Okay, yeah, sure. We'll see.
bring up his wives. Is that really a topic of conversation you want to get into? Why?
See, we're already into the personal stuff. This is the thing. Destiny's not running for president of the United States. I don't care about whether he was in an open relationship with his wife or not and what that was surrounding that, and now they're separated. When we're talking about Donald Trump, we're talking about somebody who's supported by the evangelical movement to be president of the United States, who's running as the man on family values, while he cheated on every one of his wives, including one with a porn star he paid off hush money to shut up about it because at the time his wife was pregnant with his son when he did the cheating. It's not a great look. And it's not really comparable to an open relationship that was mutually agreed upon, which I don't think Trump was in. So yeah, I don't think it's the same, especially considering one of these also led to, you know, court cases, whatever. It doesn't matter, but it's just like, you know, it's just like a dig. That's all it is.
Yeah, I don't think so. He then talks about losses when I'm pretty sure you've lost every debate that you've had. So I don't know if you want to talk about losses either. You then mentioned Kamala being a winner.
Okay, now he's this what? What is he talking about? Okay. You know, you say that Trump is bad, but have you also considered that you're bad? You say that Trump isn't, you know, credible and he doesn't have the skills to be president. He's not qualified. Oh, well, are you qualified to be president of the United States, Destiny? No, he's not. He's not running to be president of the United States. What is this?
Or maybe you can ask me a question. What primary did she win? What state did she win? Did she even get a single vote during the campaign process?
I mean, not directly, but she was on a ticket. I mean, if they were to have an open primary after Biden dropped out, which was like the Republicans were like, oh, he can't be president. He's like, okay, if he can't be president of the term, he's no longer the candidate. We choose someone else. It's the vice presidential candidate. Like, they could have had an open convention, but what's more democratic? Is it having an open convention where the delegates choose in a closed party convention who the next nominee is? Because we don't have enough time for another nomination process, like where people vote, like as in the public and not the delegates, or choosing the person who was on the ticket, and that by voting for Joe Biden, you were saying that she can be president. Because the whole point of the vice presidency is that you're a heartbeat away from being president, right? And if you're voting for Joe Biden, you're voting for him on the presumption that also Harris is qualified enough to be president if something happens to Joe Biden. And now, you know, this is of concern because he was an old man. Donald Trump's an old man. Like, did you guys not know that's the job of the VP? Point is, what would be more democratic there? There's not like a perfect answer, but I think choosing Harris is one way to answer it.
The answer, of course, is no, she didn't. And this is the party that wants to protect democracy.
LMAO at watching the debates through an air raid. Stay safe out there, brother.
I mean, what am I going to do? Go hide in the passageway in the hallway? Or am I going to watch this truly important debate with this guy from INFOWARS? I know what I must do for my country.
He also says she's the most qualified to be president. Well, what are the qualifications? Kamala Harris has worked as a government employee her entire life. She's worked for the government. So yeah, if you want a permanent government bureaucrat, lawyer running the country, then yeah, Kamala Harris is your person. I don't really think that qualifies you. In fact, I think that qualifies you to get the hell out of government.
We want people who don't know how the government, who's never worked in the government. We want people who don't have experience. We just want people from outside it. You know, I remember one of the first things I learned from being in local government, how much experience is useful, because like when I was trying to like work with candidates and trying to figure out about being in local government, one thing I found is in my city, you have 2 years in your term before there's another election. And that's also true in Congress. 2 years. And what I found is in the first year, most of them are still trying to learn the ropes of like how the whole thing functions. And then the second year, you might start getting to work on something, maybe. But by the second year, the election's already around again. And so you need to start campaigning again. And so during the first term, people usually don't get all that much done. It is the job of those who are experienced to help to share that knowledge, who have been in Congress, who knows how that works, to like share that knowledge. If you just have people who are like in Congress for 4 years and then tap out, like then they don't have time to build the relationships and the ties and the knowledge in order to really be legislatively skilled. And so then you're going to have a bunch of people who are not very legislatively skilled. You're just hoping that like this collection of citizens who have a general idea how the process works is going to be able to get a lot done in this gigantic bureaucracy that covers everything from healthcare to law enforcement to the armed services to everything. So, I mean, I think that bureaucrats exist for a reason, and having people like, for example, you might not like Lyndon B. Johnson, but having those legislative skills and knowing how to get stuff done in the Senate is very useful. We want those movers and shakers. And so, I mean, I'm not saying Harris is that, but what I am saying is the idea that, oh, it's bad because she's been in government. Well, we saw what happened with somebody outside of government who's a businessman who ran a bunch of businesses, many of which went bankrupt. When he takes the job, he has no clue what he's doing. And that's what we saw.
Because I think we can all admit that the government is corrupt. I don't know, maybe he likes the government. That'd be an interesting spot to take, but maybe that's where we're at here with the American left. So Trump actually comes from the private sector. He knows what it takes to build a business.
Can you believe the American left would prefer the public official to the billionaire businessman who wants to cut the taxes of billionaires? What has come of the left? Oh, why aren't they supporting the man whose entire campaign is making up lies about immigrants and cutting the taxes of the rich? Oh, why not? And decrying that he lost an election and saying he did. Like, come on, really? No, the left hasn't shifted here. It's just that you're a lunatic.
He knows what it takes to fail and succeed at business. He's been doing it for decades. To me, that actually qualifies you. He's somebody that actually has to deal with people on the ground. That's why when he goes out in public, you can tell he's a very relatable, personable person. When people like Kamala Harris or Tim Walz go out, they have to force it, and it's really quite an embarrassment. We have a rare election. We've had 4 years of a Trump presidency, and we've had 4 years of a Biden and Kamala Harris presidency, and the results are in. You ask anybody who's fair and neutral and not politicized, and they will tell you their life has been better under Donald Trump. The economy was better. Disaster response was better. We started no new foreign wars. It's amazing. The American left used to be...
I hate this. When you say no new foreign wars, what is... If you have like 7 wars going on and then you maintain them and then you leave office, you're not a peacemaker, right? If Nixon promised that he would end the Vietnam War, he then went into office and then the Vietnam War expanded in a bunch of different ways. They heightened the bombing and stuff. Let's say he just didn't even do that. Let's just say he maintained it till the end of his presidency. Could he at the end of that say, oh, no new wars, no new wars, no new wars? No. Because you're leaving out the context of a major war going on during that time. And Donald Trump maintained the massive bombing campaign in Yemen that was seeing no progress at the time in supporting the Saudis. He killed Soleimani, which could have escalated into a major confrontation with the Iranians. It didn't, but that was a real risk at the time, and he didn't consult Congress in the action. There was, of course, the expansion of the war in Syria because of his withdrawal from northeastern Syria. He expanded the Syrian civil war. He displaced tons of people and got our allies pulled out of trucks and shot in the side of the head. Oh, no new wars? Well, if you're expanding a war and specifically screwing over our allies in the process, I mean, I don't know how much credit I want to give you for that. Not to mention the heightening of tensions with the North Koreans, heightening of tensions with the Palestinians with the Jerusalem move. Do you think that isn't something that at all could encourage resentment and could lead for problems down the line? I mean, if under this logic, if somebody, builds a bad foundation for 4 to 8 years and then afterwards a war happens, don't talk about the bad foundation. Don't talk about how the Doha Agreement and that bad foundation could have led to the Afghanistan pullout disaster and many of the problems with it. What is it? You think you just fell out of the coconut tree? Is that the quote? You exist in the context. The quote has never been more useful.
Anti-war. When George Bush was in office, when Dick Cheney was in office, when John McCain was involved in politics, they were all anti-war. And by the way, they would have called those individuals war criminals. Now they beg for their endorsement and they celebrate when they get it.
They didn't beg for their endorsement. You get the endorsement of who you get the endorsement of. You don't always get to choose your allies. Sometimes your allies appear. Of course, they would prefer if they had a Republican superstar that most people love or something coming out and saying, yeah, I'm with you. That isn't like Liz Cheney or Dick Cheney, but that's not who they get. Now, I will also say there's probably not a lot of those people around to begin with, but, you don't always get to choose your allies. I'm sure if they were able to get maybe a Kevin McCarthy instead, they would prefer that. Or if they were able to get Nikki Haley to come out and just straight out endorse them, they would prefer that. Maybe even Mike Pence. because of just like the impact each one of these endorsements could have just from the optics angle or the supporters that could bring with them. Mike Pence from the optics angle, Nikki Haley from the supporters that it could bring with them, Kevin McCarthy, the optics angle. But again, you don't get to choose your allies. You get to choose from the ones who are offering their endorsement, not just she would have to do something to get their endorsement that I don't think she can do, because Nikki Haley wants to be the future of the Republican Party, and if she's seen as somebody that helped Harris win, then she can't try to snatch the mantle right after. People will hold resentment over that.
They don't even know where they are anymore. So I'll take no more wars. I'll take a secure border. I'll take a booming economy any day over whatever the hell we've had for the last.
Talk about Trump and his position around Israel and the bombing in Gaza or the expansion in Lebanon for like 5 seconds. And it's like they have no new wars. On its face, it's silly to me.
Last 4 years with Biden-Harris, where the whole thing was just a fraud anyway. Now it's coming out that these two never even got along to begin with. To say the MAGA movement is dying is to just deny reality. To say support is dwindling is to just deny the reality of the situation. Trump is actually doing better in the polls now than he did in 2020 or 2016 or any point in the 2024 election cycle. In fact, if you want to talk about poll numbers, Kamala Harris had the lowest approval rating of any vice president in American history. And they even wrote stories in left-wing publications that the Biden team was thinking about removing Kamala Harris from the vice presidency because her approval ratings were so low. But as soon as the media says jump and
I don't believe that. I don't know where that came from. That's cap.
Support Kamala, they all get on board, just like that. Now, there's a couple misrepresentations in some things he just said. First of all, my activity on January 6th, and I'm sure he's well aware of this, or he just didn't do the research. I was not encouraging people to go into the building. I am, in fact, on video telling people not to go into the building and steering people away from the Capitol. So that's the fact of that. But
he's the hero.
Let's just put something into perspective. The American left loves to pretend like they're the anti-establishment, yet here they are supporting the lifelong government presidential candidate. They love to pretend like they're the freedom warriors, yet he's going to attack me because I've been attacked by the government. Yes, that's right. I was put in prison for my government speech. I was censored all across the internet for my speech. So if there is a freedom fighter on this stage, it's me, not him.
You're such a hero.
Then
one clap. Maybe it'll spread. Hey, there's like 7 or 8.
Then he says hurricane machines. Another misrepresentation that comes right out of the mouth of the mainstream media. Are you denying that there are weather modification programs? Okay. Of course.
What even is this? Marjorie Taylor Greene was talking about how they controlled the weather as hurricanes were hitting the coast. It was an implication that the government's doing something to control the hurricanes, maybe hurt Republican areas more or hit these areas. The government's fault in some way, that they cause it. No, we do not have machines that can make hurricanes. Just because you can increase precipitation in one area, do a little alteration there or here, doesn't mean you can create hurricanes. And that's what was being insinuated by many of this man's friends, by Marjorie Taylor Greene, and by others. That doesn't mean it's necessarily like a mainstream viewpoint, but it is something that was spreading around. And this type of misinformation is having an impact. The stuff that's the worst is like a lot of the FEMA stuff, which is causing people, like there was like FEMA workers who had to evacuate from an area because of like threats from militias and nonsense and threats from the locals. And it's discouraging people from getting help in a very desperate situation. It's really bad.
Of course there are. There are multiple patents for weather modification. I've even attended government hearings. This is hilarious. After the show, I'll share all of this with you. I have attended government hearings in the state of Texas, the Texas Weather Modification Program. That is a government program. Anybody can go to these meetings. I went and I recorded it live. You can pull it up on YouTube right now. I even know they even publish the chemicals they spray. Lithium, barium, aluminum, amongst others. Bill Gates goes out and talks about how we can blot out the sun to stop global warming. They've done mainstream news hits like on CBS with Professor Kariakou about weather machines. China has giant weather machines where they pump water vapor into the atmosphere to cause rain. This is public information. This isn't up for debate. And you notice how he hangs his head when I talk about this. So here we are again. Who's denying facts? So they misrepresent it. They call a hurricane machine to deflect off the fact that there are government weather modifications programs. Now, you want to talk about conspiracy?
It's not, they don't have nothing to do with what happened with Milton or any of the hurricanes. They have nothing to do with recent weather events. Why bring it up? Why bring it up? It was specifically in reference to the hurricanes. To pretend that just randomly there was specific critique of participation program or whatever it was. Any of these tiny weather modification stuff to help with rainwater in certain areas where there's droughts. No, that's not what was being talked about. It was in reference to the hurricanes and trying to either A, insinuate they were created by the government to get lithium or other resources, or B, that they were being thrown at Republican areas to hurt the Republican Party and to hurt their voter turnout around the election.
Conspiracy theories, did they make this hurricane worse? Did they not? I don't know. I don't claim to believe that. But again, there are lithium mines right over where Hurricane Helene hit the mainland. That is a fact. I'm not making any...
He's saying the lithium mine thing right now. So it is this... It's the idea that they directed a hurricane to... So he said, no hurricane machines. But it's a fact that the hurricane did hit the area where the lithium mine is. So you believe it. You denied it, and then you immediately affirmed it. Why go through all this pompous performance if you're just going to immediately swallow the pill?
Anything up, that is a direct fact. So they can deny these things as much as they want, but that's just in response to what he just said. Let me explain why I like Donald Trump. I like Donald Trump because I don't like the government, and the government doesn't like Donald Trump. I like Donald Trump because my entire life, politics has been nothing but corruption, lies, and scandal. And as soon as I was growing up and I realized this, I said, we need a man who's got billions of dollars, who can self-fund his own campaign. We need a man who has name recognition, who can get on a ticket and beat all the political propaganda. That man was Donald Trump. And then he did it. He did it in 2016, he did it in 2020 when they stole it, and he's going to do it again in 2024. So yeah, when I see the entire corrupt government coming after one man, when I see them trying to shoot him in the head and kill him, yeah, that's total confirmation that he is the right guy. Now, I'm not here to tell you he's perfect.
When everybody says my guy is stupid, a moron, that when he used the Sharpie to extend the hurricane, that shows that he's demented, that talk about him not only being demented, but now the oldest candidate ever, and now he's going crazy. No, man. That just means he's super based. That just means he's super based. When he says crazy things that people call stupid, that's actually just really cool. It's really cool that everyone thinks he's stupid. It's really cool that they keep calling him stupid. Come on, man.
I'm not here to tell you I agree with all of his policies. I just know he's a man who's not controlled like most of our politicians. He's going to put America first, unlike any of our politicians in my life, and he already has a track record of making this country better. The mainstream media is corrupt. They hate Donald Trump. The government establishment is corrupt. They hate Donald Trump. So when the enemies of America are going after him, I think that's proof positive that he is the candidate we need. But if you don't want to go down those lines, we have a 4-year track record of Trump, we have a 4-year track record of Harris, and I think enough has been seen.
We'll kick it over to Stephen for his 5-minute rebuttal. The floor is yours, Stephen.
Yeah, we don't like the government so much, then just don't participate. No one's forced to get anybody. You don't have to vote for anybody. You don't have to run for any offices. Just, I don't know, fuck off to the corner and be sad and mad.
Sabotage.
A curd is a curd.
I can't hear anything. What is this? Damn.
Why is he selling 50 million different products? Well, funnily enough, that's just to enrich him personally. Whoa, hello? I guess it's just for personal enrichment, because actually when you go on those websites and you look and you see for any of the things that he, here, this is feedbacking. For any of the products that he's selling, all of those explicitly are...
Who organized this event? Uncensored America and Modern Day Debates, because I can hear James.
Marked just for him personally. They say they have nothing to do with the any kind of election campaigns at all. If you don't believe me, just go to the sites. Google Trump watches, Trump sneakers, Trump suits, Trump NFTs, Trump crypto, whatever. All of them will say they're not associated with the campaign. So I guess he's just personally enriching himself off of his election run. That doesn't sound not corrupt to me, but okay. When we talk, there's so many delusional conservative talking points. So the no new wars. Well, I mean, technically the United States hasn't declared war since World War II. What does no new wars mean? Was it no new wars when Trump bombed an airport in Syria? Was it no new wars when we assassinated Soleimani in an Iraqi airport? Was it no new rules when Trump peeled back some of the transparency on the drone strikes in Yemen that it took Biden to end? Was it no new wars when Iran was bombing Saudi Arabia? Was it no new wars when we abandoned our Kurdish allies to Turkish attacks when they invaded Syria? Is it what are the no new wars? It's like the weirdest game of semantics in the entire world. There was absolutely military conflict that was happening overseas under Trump, but to pretend otherwise is to be delusional, which I guess is to be MAGA. When we talk about January 6th, I see we still have this idea that the election was stolen. What happened? Where was the proof? Where was the Kraken? Why is it that people like Powell and Eastman and Giuliani and Trump promised us all this evidence, all these court cases? Court. What happened? Most of these cases had evidentiary hearings. There was nothing. It would be an affidavit of a person seeing something going into a mail truck and saying, I think that these are stolen ballots, with no evidence, without even knowing what a ballot looks like. You can hear all of this footage is freely available on YouTube. You can listen to them present their case in front of state legislatures, in front of courtrooms.
I have nothing to say because he's slamming it hard right now, despite the audio problems.
Giuliani doesn't know Giuliani doesn't even know how to present a criminal case anymore, apparently. You can listen to Giuliani when they were presenting it in front of the Georgia court, when they were talking about the State Farm videos, and they were talking about the ballots pulled underneath from underneath the table with the cloth over it. I think half the people in here probably still believe that those videos showed something. They don't. 4 hours later, Gabriel Sterling literally showed the 20-minute cut from those videos where you could see that the ballots were just put right underneath the tables and then taken right out as they were told to continue counting because there were so many ballots that came in. Every single one of these weird conspiracies about election fraud, all of them were debunked within hours of them coming out. People still believe them. People still spread them. Because remember, when the truth isn't good enough for a person to make money on, they have to sell you a lie, which is what Trump's campaign is all about. It's about lie after lie after lie. Nobody up here is talking about whether or not cloud seeding is real. Nobody here is talking about whether or not you might be able to influence the amount of precipitation a place receives. People are talking about the conspiracy that you are alluding to, even though you're trying to be tricky and pretend you're not, that the government was creating hurricanes to steal lithium from itself? I don't even know what the conspiracy is here. Like, if the government is so powerful that they can create hurricanes that I guess got degraded into a Cat 3, I don't know, maybe they didn't have funding for the hurricane machine, I guess. I guess so if they're sending hurricanes, why wouldn't they just buy the company or steal it that way? If Hillary Clinton is strong enough to kill Seth Rich and Podesta and them are doing satanic sex rituals, wouldn't they just take a 20% cut of the company that was mining the lithium? Like, these conspiracy theories aren't even good anymore. At least Jews doing 9/11 made sense because, Israel's trying to get us to attack the Middle East. Okay, at least stealing the oil made sense because, we have to go and we have to steal the oil because it helps our country. But now the conspiracy theorists...
Clip it and ship it. Clip those two, put them together, put it on Twitter. Done job. Get them banned.
Don't even believe that oil is what it is. They don't even believe in dinosaurs. They think that oil is like a self-replenishing resource that comes from the fucking ground. He probably believes this. It's just...
Oil is actually dinosaur bones?
He doesn't believe. If you have conservative family members, you ask them, do you believe in dinosaurs? They don't believe in dinosaurs anymore. It's not a real thing. And oil is a self-replenishing material that comes from the ground. Donald Trump tried to steal the election on January 6th. He created fake slates of electors. Every time you guys go to vote for president, you vote for the electors, and then they fill out their vote, and then the governors on December 14th, they say, okay.
Why would you, dude, those are the opinions that scare off. What's the term? Scare off the hose? Don't show that in public, man. They don't show that in front of don't show that in front of other people. That's for the chat rooms and the message boards. Don't share your dinosaurs or fake opinions in the public, man.
Okay, cool, we see the vote, we're sending it to Congress. Donald Trump had 79 different electors attest to being the actual electors. In Michigan, these guys talked about, let's hide in the basement of the Capitol, and then we'll come upstairs and we'll fill out our certificate on December 14th to make it more legitimate. He had these are made. You can go online, you can Google them, you can look at them. They are fake slates of electors with people that perjured themselves. There's a reason why. Giuliani is now disbarred. Sidney Powell is now disbarred. Eastman is facing disbarment. Donald Trump has 34 felony convictions. He's facing 3 other cases, and his only defense is, I need to have have criminal immunity for all of my behavior. There's a reason why these people that say Biden has weaponized the DOJ sit by quietly while his son is literally convicted of crimes. Meanwhile, Donald Trump pardons every single crook that worked with him, every single person that refused to answer to subpoenas for the very investigation involving his election corruption, who came out and said to the media, Roger Stone said, I'm not going to squeal on Trump, and then he doesn't. He gets held in contempt, and then Donald Trump pardons him. This is insane. To say that this is the party of law and order, I don't remember when the Republican Party became so deranged and unhinged, where they cheered on people attacking police officers, where they cheered on a president who pardons military contractors who were accused of killing civilians in Iraq. It's just Trump's entire campaign.
Wait, did I get raided by somebody? I see that I got a big jump. What's that? What's the big jump? Hey, thank you for the $5, Demaculus. I love Trump because he doesn't like the government and the government doesn't like him. The dude ought to look at the FBI most wanted list somehow.
Campaign and legacy is absolutely insane. And I don't know why we would think, I guess like the central question I would have is if you are—
I don't see your raid. Did we get one on the YouTube Loner box? I thought it was Loner.
Conservative, I can understand not wanting to vote for Harris or Biden. Fuck, Harris is a little bit too left for me when it comes to economic policy. I don't deny that. And I can understand if you're a conservative why you'd be uncomfortable voting for her. But why would you think Trump is your guy? He had 4 years to do it, and he failed. The end of his campaign, the end of his 4 years was marked with what? BLM riots and COVID lockdowns and an inability to problems facing the country. And I just don't know why we would expect to see anything else.
He's getting tripped up again. No, the muting.
We'll kick it over to Owen for his 5-minute rebuttal as well.
God.
And so on, the floor is all yours.
So deadly.
Okay.
It's like somebody's got a bamboo just shooting darts at him. Picking out the mic.
All right. Wow. So that's funny. The last thing you referenced, BLM, left-wing terrorism, and then you mentioned all of the lockdowns and the mask mandates and the vaccine mandates, again, all Democrat Party policy. So now you're arguing for my side.
What does that even mean? Like, hey, Donald Trump, in a moment of racial tension, could not unite the country, could not temper down tensions. He's the worst person for that job. Riots happened under his watch. You could say, like, I'm like, I don't know what, when he said, oh, that's your side. You think Antifa's, like, in the voting booth for Harris? You think that, like, the anarchists or, like, the, like, MLs who are out there who are, like the most diehard, like, opposed in the Antifa movement? Not everybody. I'm sure some of them probably did. But to say, like, the Antifa movement is, like, an extension of the Harris campaign is, I think, a little rich. I mean, at that point, then I could just point at any, like, right-wing group and say, oh, that's an extension of the Trump campaign. If I wanted to find some, like, I don't know, some street thug group that was associated with the Trump campaign. I don't know, stand back, stand by. You ever heard that? Anyway, I don't know. I don't think that's a good defense.
And you mentioned law and order. If you look at every Democrat-run city in this country, you will find chaos, destruction, degradation, poverty, and crime. It's just a fact. So, okay, law and order, again, how can you be a Democrat and talk about law and order when everybody knows that the blue cities are the most dangerous places to live? You've already sacrificed the point on weather modification, so I appreciate that. You know,
You say that cities are more dangerous than, like, what, like rural Nebraska? Yeah, numbnuts. It's because that's where you condense all the people. Just more opportunities for murder in a place where 10 million people versus a place with 50,000. Sorry to burst your bubble, man.
But the problem is, all of your viewpoints come from the mainstream media. And so I don't know when you've all of a sudden just blindly trusted government or blindly trusted the mainstream media, but it seems like that's where you're at in your life, based off of the things that you're muttering and stuttering up here at 500 words per minute. So I think that that's your problem. Now, Trump is the only person who got into government, specifically the White House, and lost money. He's the only one. Every other president, including Barack Obama, has come out with hundreds of millions of dollars, okay? So that's another fact. Of course, you would want us to sit out politics, because when we get involved, that's when you guys lose. But to say that I can just sit out and avoid the government and avoid politics, well, what exactly are you proposing? Yeah, I guess I could go be a homeless person in a blue city and live on a river, but I don't want to do that. I want to be part of civilization. I want to be part of the United States of America, and I have to pay taxes if I want to work and build something. I don't want my taxes going to foreign countries. I don't want my taxes going to foreign wars. I don't want my taxes going to illegal immigrants. criminals, non-citizens, and the list goes on and on. So no, I'm not going to sit.
To be clear, Trump is 100% in favor of continuing to send military aid to Israel. So I just, which foreign war, I guess? It's just, well, I guess not, at least not Ukraine, right? I guess that's the point.
Out, I'm going to restore and reform the republic. That's what we're trying to do here. And this issue you bring up wars, there was no war in Israel when Trump was president. There was no war in Ukraine when Trump was president. Both of these wars have accumulated for more than $200 billion. $200 billion. I imagine at some point in tonight's conversation, he's probably going to bring up free health care or some other social service. Maybe not, but let's just say that he does, because that's what the left loves.
I think what he's trying to indicate is like, well, these wars happened under Biden. If Trump was in office, and they wouldn't have happened. You don't know that. It's very America-centric thinking, which is not crazy because he's like me, an American. But on the second hand, there's also the other point that when the Russians invaded Ukraine, they thought the war was going to be over like that. So how America would respond, unless it would be direct military action, wouldn't that matter in the long run when it came to aid from their point of view, because they were going to win the war like that. And so when that did not happen, they didn't really have much of a fallback. So I don't really see how Trump being in there, like what difference in response would Trump give, unless you think Trump is going to bomb the Russians as they're coming into Ukraine, shut down the airspace or something along those lines. Then I don't know why you have any indication outside of just pure partisanship to say under Trump it would have gone differently. And and that differently wouldn't just be it would have gone worse.
They bring that up. I would love one time for them to talk about all the foreign aid that we have allocated every single year. Billions of dollars, now hundreds of billions of dollars under the Biden-Harris administration. Don't talk to me about free stuff, healthcare, education.
What does that even mean, by the way, when he says, I want them to talk about the aid once? Are people not talking about aid to Ukraine? Trust me, I see enough discussion of that online.
Under the Biden-Harris administration. Don't talk to me about free stuff, healthcare, education. Don't ever bring that to me until you cut the foreign spending. You're never going to convince me to give any of that money until we cut the foreign spending. Then you want to bring these hundreds of billions of dollars back in? Okay, maybe. But all this stuff you brought up about wars in the Middle East, again, Bush, Cheney, McCain, who all endorsed Harris now. They're all on the Harris side. So,
by the way, what could we have done with the millions of dollars of 1113 troop carriers that we sent over? Should we have distributed those to the homeless? I'm sorry, I've said these talking points a million times over, but I don't know, man. I'm getting bored of hitting X and XO. That's the same different fighting moves in the game over and over.
So that one doesn't really hold water. Clearly, you did not pay attention to the 2020 election and the aftermath, because you don't know what you're talking about. There were multiple sworn affidavits. There were dozens of them. There were cases where they presented all the evidence.
I swore on affidavit. What does that mean? They were shown to be liars. They were shown to be liars. Just because I swear it's true means nothing when your entire crew is a bunch of liars. And they were found guilty in many instances and then were convicted. Like, I don't want... But they swore they were telling the truth. Oh, okay, well.
And in fact, there were multiple cases that resulted in charges, including in Fulton County, Georgia, Atlanta, where they were double and triple counting ballots, because that's a blue area, so they count them as many times as possible to run up the lead for the Democrats. And anybody who looks at the graph from the 2020 election results will see in the four key states...
Fulton County stuff is just entire BS. It's just completely made up.
One pattern happened.
I'm pretty sure that's like where he got his like lawsuit from, by the way. I don't know if it was Fulton County or a different county. I can't remember.
And every time. In Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, Donald Trump was winning the entire day. The entire day. And then right at 3:30 in the morning, in each one of those states...
We all knew that was going to happen in advance. In advance, they talked about it for months. That Donald Trump had been discouraging people from voting by mail, and that Republicans were more willing to go vote in person because they did not have the same concerns about C-19 that Democrats did. So the concerns about C-19 were more felt within Democrats, so they didn't want to go vote in person because, you know, a bunch of people gathering together, so they wanted to vote from a distance. And the Democrats encouraged their viewers, I'm talking about like Biden like he's a streamer, they encouraged their supporters to vote by mail to just get the voting done. And so that you know, when election day came around, if something came up, their vote would already be in there. They didn't have to be worried about C-19 and going to the vote, and it would be already over. Where on the other side, they were concerned about the security around mail-in voting, so Trump said no. And they were not as concerned about C-19, so more people were willing to go vote in person. So we all knew that the mail-in ballots were going to be much more slanted towards the Democrats. And when you add all those factors together, and you just like talk about the mail-in ballots from already Democratic-leaning cities, so you're in a Democratic-leaning area, right? That's the first thing, in a city, an urban environment. And then they've got the COVID variant, where that means, oh, people don't want to go in person if you're a Democrat, so that's going to motivate them to vote more by mail. And Democrats have been encouraging people to vote by mail, or Republicans have been discouraging people to vote by mail, namely Donald Trump, the man on the ticket. That's what led to the bumps. Talked about it for months in advance.
The perfect amount of votes came in for Biden, and the graph shot literally straight up. Literally. You are not being honest with yourself if you don't look at that and say that's some sort of an anomaly right there. When Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa both hit 62 home runs in the same season, the anomaly was steroids. There were vote steroids for Biden that year, and anybody who's not observing that and being honest about it is just either not looking or, again, not being honest about it. So I think we're probably ready for questions now. I've just responded to all his comments.
You got it. Thank you very much for that rebuttal as
Well, we're going to jump into the prepared questions. So I'm going to read these as loudly as I can.
Prepared questions.
for
Wow, as loudly as he can into his choppy audio.
And then Owen.
But this audio is
The
beautiful.
first question for Stephen. Given Trump's 2016 border wall idea was labeled by Kamala.
Wow, great. This is perfect. This is just the question I wanted.
Are we, was that audible to everybody?
If you're able to read it out, actually.
Sure. So I think the question was, in 2016, Donald.
And then he cuts out. Dude, who ran the audio at this thing? What is this?
I think conservatives, Democrats said that it was a waste of money, it wasn't a good idea, and then now that Kamala's proposing a wall, why is it now a good idea?
Dylan, is Westoid xenophobic? I mean, maybe, but I don't really care. I mean, like, I guess that would apply to me, right? It doesn't really hurt my feelings.
Yeah, the idea that immigration policy could be boiled down to having a wall or not is childish.
Hey, thank you for the 20 DKK Donkey Kong money. I appreciate the money. You're doing a good job. Thank you. Thank you, Sauls.
There's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into making good immigration policy. But the reality is most people, especially conservatives, don't think that illegal immigration is a big problem in the United States right now. It's very, very, very easy to prove this, because if you look at what happened on the border, you saw that there was a bill in Congress to address those issues at the border.
Danish krone for anyone
Everybody was
curious.
on board with voting for this until Donald Trump came in and said, no, I need you to keep the border open because I need to run on this as an election issue. You can listen to McConnell talk about it. You can listen to Cruz talk about this. All of this is open testimony. It's not even testimony. You're able to say to the media. Donald Trump said, I can't have you pass this border bill because it's going to make it so that I don't have something to run on. That doesn't sound like a very big problem to me. That sounds like politicking. Much the same, when Donald Trump was in office, Donald Trump didn't do any of the things that he said he would do at the border. He didn't get any legislation passed. He didn't make any substantive changes legislatively or through the legislature by working with them to actually effect any good border policy. He didn't get any money from Mexico. That was
the thing that always got me is like Trump was like the art of the deal guy. So you would think from that angle, like deal making would have been a much bigger part of the presidency than it was, but it really wasn't part of it at all. And the odds are that if the Republicans win the presidency, like they could still very much lose down ballot and then not control the House or only control the Senate or not control both. And then if Donald Trump is president with a Democrat-controlled Senate and House, what is he going to do?
Is a complete and total lie. He failed on basically every single measurable outcome. He wasn't able to do anything. So again, if you think that the border is a problem, Why would Trump be your guy to fix it? He did nothing except for what he could with executive action, and he's not able to lead the Congress in getting any comprehensive immigration stuff done. And the one time there was a good bill on the table that would have alleviated a lot of the issues with the asylum-seeking process, he shot it down. This guy over here is probably very keen to misinfo a lot of the stuff about the border bill, so I'll get ahead of a few of it because I know a lot of the dumb talking points, like the $200 billion in aid, the majority of which is used weapons, which last I checked can't help anybody with their health care in the United States.
Amen.
But, for instance,
I appreciate the quick mention, Destiny. Absolutely appreciate it.
when people talk about the border bill, they'll say stupid things like, well, that bill would have let 5,000 people a day in. No, what that bill would have done is if the caps hit a certain level or exceeded a certain level, the federal government would have been able to unilaterally shut the border down, which would have actually prevented more people from coming in if numbers got too high until the numbers had come back down. This bill would have allowed for more asylum judges to be paid for so that we could work through the backlog of people better. This bill would have allowed for more border security and for more people to prevent people from coming over illegally across the border. This bill would have helped a lot of the problems with the border, but Republicans were more keen to see a fight over politics rather than alleviating the problem. So I guess it was never really that big of a problem to begin with.
Thank you. And Owen, you have 3 minutes to respond.
Well, that's just a blatant misrepresentation of the congressional bill. It was never going to permanently shut down the border. It was going to set a cap.
Well, by the way, when they say, like, okay, this is the problem. When they say permanently shut down the border, under international law, we have to take asylum cases. Like, there's already a question about putting the cap, if that's even within the bounds of international law, which I think was, like I said, at like 2,000 per day. Meaning that if 2,000 per day would have crossed the border and claim asylum, at that point we'd shut it down and not take anybody else. We'd be like, nope, nope, no more. Now that doesn't mean that they're allowed to come in. That just means like if the situation gets out of control, there's like a lever that the president can pull upon, and they would pass it through Congress. So this would be a lever that would pass from presidency to presidency. It wouldn't be something that could just be taken away with the stroke of a pen, you know?
Day, which would have maxed out still over 1 million border crossings per year. And they love to play this game with asylum. They're basically just rewriting the laws, and so anybody can seek asylum.
But mind you, it was a Democrat-controlled Senate. It's a Republican-controlled House. You have to be able to make a deal. A Democrat president, I don't know what you expected. You expected like a 3-seat majority was going to get your bill with no alterations after you guys created a hostage situation with Ukraine aid? Like, I don't know what you expected, man.
Anybody can get on the app, the CBP One app, and claim to be an asylum seeker. This is not asylum. Asylum seekers go to their bordering country. That's an asylum seeker. These are people who are coming to the United States of America for free food, free health care, a hotel to stay at, and a free transportation trip wherever they want to go. That's why they're coming here, and they've basically rewritten the laws where everybody is rubber stamped as an asylum seeker. So you can sit here and say, oh, asylum seekers. Well, anybody and everybody from all across the planet can come here and now claim to be an asylum seeker, and you're just rewriting the phrase and the concept of illegal immigration. But you're just wrong. It's still over 1 million a year on this bill, but still you're completely misrepresenting it. The reason why the Republicans decided not to vote for this bill is because it did include all the pork barrel spending. This is how corrupt Congress is, and both sides do it. The Republicans and the Democrats do it. They've been doing it for years. They just tried to do it again on the continued resolution, but they couldn't even get the SAVE Act passed. So they'll have a bill with a major issue. Let's say it's border security. And then they'll pork barrel funding of all these different projects, all these different things that a governor over here might want, a representative over here might want, a senator over here might want. And they toss it all into this bill and they say, this is the border security bill. And then if you don't sign it, you're not for border security. And it's just a game. It's a game that our politicians have been playing against us, all of us, for years. So, yeah, I'm glad that the Republicans didn't do it in a rare moment, but yeah, are they still going to get the pork barrel they want? Yes. Are we still going to get all the illegal immigration that they want? Yes. So we still lose on that issue. Now, again, to sit here and pretend like the border was less secure or not secure under Donald Trump is just not being honest. The numbers are proven that the border crossings were down under Donald Trump.
What people don't want to acknowledge is that towards the end of Trump's presidency, crossings had already started to go up and increase until then Biden became president and then inherited that situation. You could maybe say that the Biden presidency during the first year or two could have downplayed the situation to some extent for political purposes. But the idea that there was not an increase, like during Trump administration, like from start to finish, there were like barely any crossings. That's just not true.
And
hell, I mean, if you wanted to play the same game that Republicans play about like violent criminal comes in and commits crimes, there were terrorists that were caught at the border during Trump's time in office. Like terrorists. You can go look it up, Google it. And there were people who came in who were violent criminals, who did violent crimes, killed people, did horrible things during that presidency as well. And so the emotional games that are played a lot of the time with this, by choosing individual stories, could be played either way because our immigration system has been broken for decades.
every year since the Biden administration, the Biden-Harris administration has been in power, you've had a record number of illegal crossings. 3 straight years. And by the way, where are the 325,000 missing children that they have let in? Why did Kamala Harris cancel the border wall construction that was already paid for but now pretends to do it? It's because she's a flip-flopper and she'll say whatever she needs to get fools like this to vote for her.
Now a question for Owen. This has been prepared earlier.
Dude,
the question for you, Owen,
come on.
While no taxes on tips nor on overtime from Donald Trump may help many Americans with the current high cost of living, many other Americans don't receive tips on the job and don't work at an hourly rate. Are there any blanket policies that would help Americans as a whole deal with the currently higher cost of living?
Absolutely. And in fact, Trump needs to go a lot farther with this. No taxes on tips might have been a lucky strike for Donald Trump, since this election will likely come down to Nevada, even more specifically Las Vegas, where most people work for tips. That's why Kamala Harris was so quickly to steal that policy, because they're well aware that Las Vegas
I'm bluer than Harris. I don't like the policy.
Could end up deciding this election.
I don't like the exemption.
In the way the
I just don't think it's fair.
Electoral college might go. No, I think it's pretty clear. And again, this isn't a Republican thing. This isn't a Democrat thing. This isn't a conservative, liberal, left, right. This should be all Americans. Everybody should agree with what I'm about to say. By the time it's all said and done, we're taxed at about a 30% rate. By the time we buy things, sell things, spend things.
So Trump has the beautiful plan to increase that by 20% on all products across the board. Beautiful.
Earn money, whatever it is, you're taxed at about a 30% rate. That is astronomical, okay? What we need to do...
Working in the service industry, you'll understand, like, my mother was a waiter. I'm well aware that tips is a very big part of the wage, but the idea that that giant chunk of income would be untaxable when other types of income, whether from traditional workplaces or otherwise, don't get those exemptions on taxes, I don't think it's fair. We could talk about like restructuring how like waiters are paid all together, but like that's like when we're talking about the majority of income in a lot of these industries. So we're saying that like strippers who are making like $300,000, $400,000 a year, how much of that is not going to get taxed? How much money are they going to get away with? And I don't want to say getting away with as it's a mean thing, but when people are making similar incomes in other office jobs, but then are getting all of that income like taxed. You get the idea. Strippers don't count. You get the idea. The idea that for a lot of these people, including waiters, that is a majority of their income. You could do the same thing if strippers don't count in with waiters. It's a majority of their income. Not having that taxable does not seem fair to the other people who have all of that income that is not tips completely taxable. So either you'd have to find an exemption for the rest of the workers who are not working in those industries, or as I would propose, a better just restructuring of it just completely, not to, like, we could either get rid of the tips industry altogether, just make these jobs pay in a different way, increase the prices. I know that there's a psychological problem with that when it comes to people paying, but I don't think the solution is to just exempt such a large part of the workforce of taxes for votes, which is what it feels like. Strippers have hard working conditions. Yeah, well, so do coal miners. So do like people who work on oil rigs. So do people who do all sorts of jobs where their money is still taxed.
Is a flat tax, and I would just say just a sales tax, and that's it. We should have no income tax, no federal income tax, no state income tax, no tax on tips. You should be able to make a transaction without the government getting involved 5 times, reaching into your pocket and shaking you down like the mafia that it is. So if we need tax for certain things in civilization, we can have a small sales tax, and that would be more than enough to still pay for the roads, the police officers, and everything else. It would be more than enough. Yeah, we might not be able to afford all the wars overseas. Yeah, we might not be able to give Ukraine $200 billion and Israel $10 billion.
If we were to increase taxes or decrease taxes, no matter which way, whatever, that would no amount of fiscal management or better management or changes would have changed the fact that giving them those M113 troop carriers that we were never going to use in battle for our own men because of how old that equipment is, that costs us no new money. It's presented as a lump sum that could have been spent on other things or other goods, and it's just, I don't think it's particularly honest.
$1 million every time they come to Washington.
And of course, no one talks about the economic benefits of, for example, stopping Russian expansionism into Europe. Whatever, I don't want to get derailed.
DC, yeah, we might not be able to afford that. Oh well, I think the American people will be able to get over that, quite frankly. So no, I don't think it goes far enough. And this whole concept that I always hear these talking points from the left. Oh, the rich don't pay their fair share. Well, what is the fair share? What is the fair share from the rich? They already pay the most in taxes by far. The rich pay 90% of the taxes, but this is still solved with a flat sales tax, because who's going to be taxed more on a flat sales tax? The rich. Who's going to be buying a yacht? The rich. Who's going to be buying a skyscraper? The rich. Who's going to be buying a jet? The rich. So it really knocks out all the problems. It takes care of the left wanting the rich to pay more taxes because they buy more things, spend more money, and it gets the government out of the middleman and the middle class and the lower classes' lives, where we're not spending as much on taxes either. So it's a nice policy to get a talking point started. It's a nice policy that could end up determining the results of this election, but this is beyond party lines. We are taxed way too much. We need to cut taxes down to almost nothing. And by the way, for all these people that want more government services and all this thing, why don't they just volunteer to pay more taxes? I'm sure the IRS would take your check, but I noticed that all the people that want more taxes, they never volunteer to pay more taxes. They want somebody else to pay those taxes, not themselves. Somebody else has to pay those taxes. So I'm not going to do the class warfare crap. Every single American should be upset at how much we get taxed. We used to throw tea in the Boston Harbor for a 2% tax. Now we tax about 30% of the money that we make and spend. It's over the top. It's out of control. We need to cut this thing down. And Trump just going after tips, payroll, and all the other things he's mentioned. I think Social Security, yeah, that's a nice start. Let's keep going. Let's keep cutting. And cut the government down about 98% too, and you won't need all these taxes.
Thank you. We'll kick it over to Stephen for his 3-minute response.
So the unfortunate reality... Can you hear me? Yeah, so, I mean, like, if you have no understanding of economics, I guess we can say that a flat tax is a good idea. Allow me to introduce a very simple concept. It's called marginal utility, okay? What does marginal utility mean? It means that the next dollar that you have means a little bit less to you than the one that you had before. So what does that mean? Well, if you go to somebody that makes $40,000 a year and you say, hey, give me $5,000, that $5,000 from that person means a whole lot more than you go to a person that makes $500,000 a year and say, hey, give me $5,000, because the marginal utility of the next dollar that you earn is less and less and less. Once you're making past 7 figures, you might not even miss $10 or $20 or $30,000 missing in your account, because who keeps track of it? Whereas when you're poor, or when you're working poor, or when you're lower middle class, or even middle class, you do notice when there's an extra few $100s that go to a tax, an expense, whether it's childcare, whether it's whatever else. These are costs that everybody has to deal with. In order for our society to function, in order to support the successful businesses and billionaires that we have in our society, some level of redistribution is probably required. Probably doesn't work when you have a society with some people that make billions of dollars, whether that's in the appreciation of assets or whether that's through W-2 wages or whatever, right? Millions of dollars through W-2s, right? And then you have a bunch of people that can barely afford to live in the cities that they are working for these people in. When I stream my stuff on Twitch or if I stream my stuff on YouTube, I'm not just relying on my stream and the people watching me. I'm not even just relying on the engineers that keep all of that infrastructure working. I'm also relying on the people that keep the buildings clean. I'm relying on the people that work as baristas and servers that serve the people food that might work in these downtown areas. I'm relying on the bus drivers. I'm relying on the emergency medical services. There's a whole chain of people that exist that make it so that I can do my job that I think it's okay to pay into. And anybody that's in America, a country that allows you to be
doesn't feel
the
under
best
pressure
version
here
of
at
yourself more than
all.
any other country
At
in the world.
all, really.
I think that when you live in this country, I think that you also do owe a debt to it. And you owe a debt to the people that work in this country and keep it running. And the idea that somebody making over $1 million a year can't pay a little bit more in taxes to keep that country functioning is absurd to me. And then this idea of, oh, well, if you think it's so important, then why don't you just pay more taxes? If there's a stone in the middle of the room and it takes 10 of us to lift it, and there's one guy saying like, hey, we should go lift the stone, you say like, oh, well, why don't you go lift it on your own? It doesn't make any sense, right? A few people saying, okay, well, fine, I'll pay more in federal income taxes doesn't really do anything for the country. This idea of the citation to the Boston Tea Party is hilarious, given that MAGA people are some of the least constitutionally respecting people in the history of the United States, whose president literally said he would terminate the Constitution because he wanted to go and find voter fraud.
Does anybody know if it was terminate or suspend? I thought it was suspend. Either way, it's scary.
Given a softball question by Sean Hannity, asking him, hey, when you were talking about what you would do in office, that was a joke, right? And he's like, it was a joke, except on day one, I will be a dictator. Okay, this is the guy that you're going to talk about and then bring up.
No, okay, you said /S. God damn, I'm not reading fast enough.
Boston Tea Party. Also, the Boston Tea Party didn't happen because of no taxation. It happened because of no taxation without representation. The second part is important. We can consent to being taxed. We can vote on politicians that do taxes. We can vote on politicians that do spending.
How do you forget
if you want
the
to do
second
something
part
about
of the phrase?
The level of taxation as well, you have to pair it with budget cuts. This idea that Donald Trump is, again, the guy that is going to help you because he's going to cut taxes, where are the budget cuts?
See, that's the problem. Even though you live in two separate realities, everyone remembers from the most basic of grade school when talking about the American Revolution. No taxation without representation. Destiny finishing the phrase here. As long as you went to elementary school, you should be able to connect with that on a basic level.
What are you actually cutting from the budget? And keep in mind as well that on the federal spending, 25% of this is in our discretionary spending. So when you're crying so much about, oh, foreign aid to Ukraine, which again, you haven't addressed, but it's like 20 billion in cash, not 200, okay? The rest is usually in the form of old armaments, so we have to pay to upkeep anyway. Where was the spending cuts from Donald Trump? They didn't exist. So what, are we just gonna continue to deficit spend 75%?
We have to move. Thank you very much, Stephen.
Can I?
I just checked. It was terminate. It was terminate. I was wrong. Spreading misinformation again. It was. Was there another one that was also suspend? Either way, terminate's scarier.
Can I get a quick rebuttal? Can I have a quick rebuttal?
The open dialogue. We'll have you open the open dialogue as we have 15 minutes devoted to it.
This is your chance to start with
That rebuttal
Who
right
is
now.
managing this audio? James, please. I believe in you. Get an audio guy. Come on. I'm sure he has one. They're just having problems, but damn.
What cities are so expensive to live in? Democrat-run cities. And again, he talks about redistribution.
Is this the open?
You talk about redistribution again.
When those cities are expensive, do you acknowledge that those cities produce more economic output for the country than all the red cities? This is what I mean when I say these people don't live in reality. But like, why can't you acknowledge that?
It's a strong open,
Because
man.
he'll very quickly say things like,
He
oh,
waited for him to say,
Chicago.
is it open? It's open? Boom. He went straight to it. My God. And he seems actually taken aback. I don't think he's ever gotten that response before. It's more expensive to live there. Well, yeah, there's more economic output. What would you... Like, yeah, of course, there's a problem with living in places like LA, and I don't want to live there because it's just way too expensive. Plus, I love Maryland, but I would not live there because of how expensive it is. But that doesn't mean I can like bash down upon LA because California alone is like the 10th strongest economy in the world if it was its own country, right? I mean, it carries so much economic weight for the United States. And so, yeah, you can acknowledge that, it's expensive to live there, but that's because there's so much economic production because like so much is going on there. So much of the world's technological development is from around that area. So much of the world's economic output is from around that area. The ports are gigantic. The ports need to be modernized more, but the ports, help connect America to the world and to the Pacific.
Yeah, there's more people that live in Chicago, and Chicago is what makes Illinois all its money. That's where the money comes from, or the blue cities. It's not just blue states that subsidize the existence of red states, which is true. And by the way, all of those governors were so happy for the American Rescue Plan when Biden was there to hand out money to shore up their budgets. But then when you want to talk about expenses and living and all these other things, now you want to talk about how blue cities need to be held responsible, but you don't give them credit for the economic output? It's insane.
So it's a nice deflection. So Democrat cities are the most expensive to live in, so I'm glad you at least acknowledge that. And again,
more expensive to live in the U.S. than Uganda as well, right? It is, right?
So you can always volunteer to pay more, all right? If you want to redistribute wealth,
I don't know how to respond to that. Like, why would you want to live in America compared to Uganda if it's more expensive to live in America? For example, it's cheap to live here in Kiev comparison to where I'm from. But I will also say where I'm from, I've never had an Iranian drone fly over my house and go kaboom, you know? I never heard of like a missile come over and then hit a hospital. You know, I've had problems with like people, you know, I don't know, getting drunk at night, but there's nothing like, and maybe like parties from a local college, but you know, it costs more because obviously the conditions, the close access to Washington, D.C., which is, you know, there's a lot of employment opportunities there, a lot of government workers.
Be the hero, man. You can empty your bank account right now, but I bet you don't. I bet you're actually living pretty rich. I bet you do pretty well. And you want to bring up the Constitution. The Constitution actually states when the United States government becomes corrupt, it's our duty to reform the government. That's
what article clause is that? Is to terminate, suspend the rules of Constitution? Which Constitution are we talking about?
We live in a constitutional republic. We don't live in a democracy.
Destiny's really knocking him off. He's taking advantage of open. Okay, James is a very hands-off moderator. He's a little different from me on that front. It's not that he never intervenes. He very rarely does. In this environment, if Destiny wants to, he can just take pot shot and like really like wait for him to like try to set up a shot and just go in there and jab and then set the conversation to drive the conversation in the direction he wants to. Where putting Owen Shroyer, like every time Owen steps forward, immediately Destiny's there to meet him. And if he does that for this whole debate, like it's going to be difficult for Owen to really do much because where Destiny does his best is not when the other guy's shooting out 1 million things per second. It's when he's allowed to drag it down to a crawl, sink him in the mud with each individual point, not allowing him to move on. And I think this other guy, to be honest, that's probably where he performs best is when he's able to go around and set a larger narrative by connecting a bunch of dots that, you know, if he went down an individual basis, maybe you'd find flaws, but from a distance, when you can see this giant narrative all together, maybe it looks like something there. But when Destiny's breaking it down before it can even start it, it's going to be a rough night for him.
Prediction there. What do you think? Hold on. What is a republic and what is a democracy?
A democracy is where a bunch of lunatics like you can vote away my rights. A democracy is where 3 wolves and a sheep vote what's for dinner.
Is that Article 5 or Article 6? I don't know what part of the Constitution.
So you asked what a democracy
was. So a democracy is when multiple people vote. A republic is when you have representatives that do things for you. We are a representative democracy. That's why we're a constitutional republic. We are both a republic, which just means you're not a monarchy, and a democracy. This idea that we must be a republic because I
don't even understand why people bring this up like, oh, we're not a democracy. We're a What's the point in expressing that? Is it just to be snobby, just to say it in a more snobby way? Add a pompous name to it. I don't understand. I really don't understand why they say that. I think they want to make the distinction that not everything can be voted on like our rights, but you that's still within a democracy. Democracies have bounds and limits to them. There's not really any democracies that don't.
I'm a Republican and we're not a democracy because you're a Democrat is fucking retarded. Come on.
So again, we live in a constitutional republic where we have unalienable rights given to us by God, the Creator.
Democrats. That's not a response to what he said. He just introduced God to the equation.
Democrats don't want you to know that because they want to be able to vote away your rights, like they want to be able to vote away your Second Amendment rights, vote away your First Amendment rights, and they'll go right down the line. Okay, so that's why these people love democracy because they want to be able to vote away your rights.
Are we talking about abortion that we lost to a conservative Supreme Court? Are we talking about the Second Amendment when Donald Trump did the bump stock ban? I'm sorry, how would you have gone right?
By the way, it was constitutionally protected, a woman's body and a woman's right to choose. That's what the Supreme Court decided in Roe versus Wade until it was overturned.
attacked under Biden.
It was a bad ban.
And it came under Donald Trump. So why would he be the guy, a guy, no offense, but a liberal from New York, which is what Donald Trump is, that's the guy that you want defending your gun rights?
So you now have the President of the United States and the Vice President and the next would-be Vice President, Tim Walz, have all said they want an assault weapons ban, okay? What even is an assault weapon? Can you tell me?
A scary big black rifle that Democrats have been crying about for 30 years. They haven't banned it yet. I don't think they're going to ban it in this administration.
Very intellectual. By the way, what is a rich person's fair share?
What is a rich person's fair share? I think that the level of taxation should match appropriately the spending that we want from our federal government. Also, the reason what you asked me an assault rifle, there is no definition for an assault rifle. I acknowledge that. I don't want to ban assault rifles. Tim Walz and Kamala Harris both owned firearms. Walz is a hunter. When was the last time you saw Trump with a firearm? I watched Roseanne, it was Roseanne, I think, with a firearm, right? Where she almost killed herself on a Twitter video with one? Jesus Christ.
So what, in the Bill of Rights, where is abortion mentioned?
Do you want to get into the...
It doesn't have to be in the Bill of Rights to be constitutionally protected.
Constitutional legal construction of the penumbra of rights that are invoked when you try to get like the right to privacy.
Imagine you're the founding fathers. They're like, okay, we're making the Bill of Rights. Make sure we include everything now, okay? Because if they can't add anything in the future, there can be no discussion. It's like, we better hit every base now. What if they invent new things and like the, you know, like the legal thing? No. Everything in this bill, we need just 20 bullet points. You got to cover all your bases, okay? Right to your space lasers, okay? Right to, come on, man.
You brought up, you said, you claim there's a right to an abortion. It just doesn't exist.
I didn't claim there was a right to an abortion. Technically, the abortion right comes from a right to privacy, but we'd have to go over Casey and Roe, and I'm sure that you're not familiar with any of those Supreme Court cases, or probably any Supreme Court case. But the reality is that before you had a protected right to seek an abortion, now you don't. Republicans took that from you. Before you had the right to own a bump stock, Donald Trump banned bump stocks through executive action, by the way.
Which lost at the Supreme Court.
Which what?
Lost at the Supreme Court.
Well, that hasn't stopped him in the past from going back over and over again to try to get cases tossed or to try to get favorable rulings.
Hey man, I don't live in a cult. I said I have disagreements with Donald Trump. So you can attack me on Trump's policies that I disagree with. That's not a win for you.
I agree I can't win attacking you on Trump's policies because he has none. Okay. I mean, what am I mean, yeah, what can you give me what is one Trump policy that he's running on besides 20% tariffs?
Secure border.
That's not a policy. That's like
taxes.
an idea. That's the concept of an idea of a policy.
Stopping war.
Okay.
Oh my God, it's like the Joshua Collins race again. Stop war. Remember that? What's your policies? What's your foreign policy? No war. Oh, no war. He's gonna go to the concept of war and say, "Swiper, stop swiping." And it's all gonna stop. The rifle shall cease.
What are Harris policies that are so great?
Well, the three that she listed immediately is she wanted to give a $50,000 rollover deduction to new startups for small businesses. So
that was Trump's idea?
What?
Trump did that.
Maybe he should have spoke it. I don't know if he's too senile now or he's lost the ability to do it. What?
You just weren't watching.
I was watching. Unfortunately, I watched too much Trump. That was one. A second thing she wanted to do was expand the child tax credit, which was incredibly successful under Biden.
Also a Trump policy.
It wasn't. That's why it happened under Biden. Wait.
No. I'm sorry. The child tax credit stuff, that infuriates me because it was the Republican Party who shot down the renewal of the child tax credit. And if Trump went out there and told the Republicans to vote for it, you don't think that there would be a certain amount of, he says jump, they say how high, and then you could combine that with the Democrat votes to get it over the top? He didn't. It's just like he waited until after passing the stimulus to say, oh man, I think the individual check should have been bigger. He didn't say that before when they were negotiating. He said it after so he could pivot the blame to other politicians for why the stimulus check was not bigger for struggling Americans. Like it's cheap politics.
Under Biden.
Also a Trump policy.
It wasn't. That's why it happened under Biden, and it's why the Republicans initially fought against it. Are we going to say that pre-existing conditions in the ACA was a Trump policy now as well? I know that he wants to take care of that one. And then the third thing that Kamala Harris said is she wanted to do a $15,000 first-time home buyer credit to people that were buying homes for the first time. Donald Trump said he wanted
for illegal immigrants.
How does an illegal?
He's a walking stereotype, man.
I'm curious. How do you think these tax credits work?
How would a fucking illegal tax? You've got to file taxes. That's how oh my God, dude. If you're filing taxes, then you have to have a social security number. If you have a social security number, you can't be an illegal immigrant unless they would be they would steal a social security number and then pay taxes on it. I guess that'd be the way you would do it. But like undocumented people don't have a social security number to pay taxes to claim a tax credit on. When you're undocumented, you don't want that much of a paper trail on you. The bigger paper trail you have, the bigger problem you have. So I think them collecting tax credit money would be an issue.
Do you realize that they give money to illegal immigrants to buy houses?
I don't think you know how any of this works because I think you were probably born a rich kid and you never bought a house on an FHA loan before. So I had a tax credit when I bought a house. The way that these work is you apply for these refundable tax credits when you get them at the end of the year when you've qualified for them. An illegal immigrant definitionally doesn't file taxes because they don't have social security numbers. They don't get money back from the government. So how would an illegal immigrant qualify for a tax credit? Again, this doesn't make any sense. It's like the hurricane
I agree.
machines.
It doesn't make any sense. This is the Democrat policy. I completely agree. It doesn't make any sense at all. So
Where are
thank
these
you.
lazy people that are coming over and not working and not getting jobs, getting the money for homes?
The U.S. government.
They pay them for the homes too? Then why even give them the tax credit? Why not just give them the homes outright?
Don't give them any ideas. They might do that next. They might actually do that next.
Where are they getting all these?
Actually, they do. Who pays for the hotels that they're staying at in New York City, in Chicago? Well, who's paying for those hotels? Who's paying for that room and board?
I imagine there's probably federal money allocated to people.
And where does the federal government get its money?
From the, I mean,
U.S.
from the U.S.
taxpayers.
Treasury, sure, yeah.
U.S. taxpayers.
This is brutal to watch, honestly.
So you are paying for illegal immigrants' housing. Thank you very much.
Illegal immigrants staying in apartments and hotels temporarily is not them buying homes with a tax credit. This is like saying we can do cloud seeding, therefore we've created hurricanes for attacking the United States. You see that it's a mott and belly. It's not the same at all.
Let's just move on.
Of course.
Use a big word like mott and
I've been
belly.
telling Republicans that since the 2020 election, and they still haven't.
This is a good opportunity. Anything that you want to bring up during the open dialogue, Stephen?
A lot of clapping at people.
Yeah, do we acknowledge that Trump probably
slam
lost 2020?
poetry,
Have we gotten
throw
over
down.
that yet, or?
No, I don't want to relitigate that, but I would be happy to show
Don't
you
relitigate the election
results
that the
on the
presidential
graphs
candidate
where at
still
3:30 in the
denies.
morning in 4 states, Biden's votes go straight up.
Okay, it's just, we talked about the mail-in voter stuff earlier. It's the same thing, Democrats encourage mail-in voting. Democrats were scared of C-19, so they wanted the vote not in person. Democrats then voted a lot by mail, while Republicans were being discouraged from voting by mail by Donald Trump. Then you go to urban centers where it's already heavily leaning Democrat. Boom. There you go.
Is that normal?
No, it's not normal.
So what do you think that is?
I think that just like every single person before the election said, there was an unprecedented amount of mail-in voting.
And they were all for Biden.
A lot of them were. Did you
Of
not
course.
listen?
Of course they were.
Of course they were.
And they all came right at 3:30 in the morning.
Because Donald Trump spent a year in the lead-up telling his people, don't vote via mail-in ballot.
You are so
Do you remember
gullible,
that
man.
happening? Did you watch Donald Trump for a year
You are
say,
so
we don't
gullible.
vote via mail-in ballot, we go to the polls and vote? And you know why he did that? We know why he
Did you watch the Harris interview on Fox? Yes, I did. It's earlier in today's stream. It'll probably be released on YouTube in the future.
did that. Because Roger Stone and Manafort, two corrupt lunatics that Donald Trump has both given full pardons to, by the way, are on recorded audio saying Donald Trump is just going to declare himself the victor on the night of the election because he knows he's going to get destroyed when the mail-in ballots start coming.
And
he knew
did
that
Donald
because
Trump
he told,
declare himself the victor, or did he leave the White House?
Do what?
Did Donald Trump leave the White House?
After a failed insurrection, yes.
A failed insurrection. Who ran the insurrection?
Donald Trump and the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers and everybody that broke into the Capitol and delayed the certification of the vote.
Do you really believe that?
Was the vote certification delayed?
What is an insurrection?
Wait, was the vote
Hold on.
Was the vote certification delayed on January 6th?
No, it went through. They certified. Did Trump? Did Trump?
Hold on. I'm so sorry. I don't know who you're answering right now. Was the vote certification delayed? Was Congress called out of session on January 6th?
Yes, I think for a couple hours.
For several hours.
So by the end of the day,
why were they called out of session?
So by the end of the day,
You see how we can't live in reality? You see how this doesn't work?
He's got to
Because
move
it doesn't
on.
function when you have people
If you want
that
to go
refuse
back and
to
call
accept.
this an insurrection,
The craziest thing is
pressure.
it's all on video. We've seen all
pressure.
of this.
So
None of this is a mystery.
Tell me
right?
what an insurrection is. Just define it for me.
I don't have to define it for you. I'm just asking simple questions. On January 6th, there was a certification of the vote. That vote was disrupted by violence. If you want to get into what an insurrection is, you could say that it was a crowd of people that had gathered with a common purpose to use the means of violence or intimidation to disrupt an official federal proceeding, such as the certification of the 2020 vote, the outcome of that election, which is why it would probably qualify as an insurrection.
Okay. How many guns were at this insurrection?
You don't need a gun for an insurrection.
Zero.
Zero? Wait, the
and
cops
how many
didn't have any guns?
Oh, the cops had a gun. That's right. They killed an
okay.
innocent
So that
person.
was what you just said.
Innocent
was
person.
wrong.
She
What
jumped
happened?
over the last barrier between them and legislature. I'm innocent when they barge into the building, they're egging it all on, and they're charging past the last barriers that they're actively being warned not to jump. I don't know. it's weird to see all the people who were stand by the blue immediately when their own people start breaking the law, going into areas and threatening like politicians through jumping the last barrier, trying to go through the last barrier to the politicians. No, completely innocent. She was like a Bobby in a cradle.
With a slingshot? What do you mean there were 0 guns at the insurrection?
So, okay, so the government had the guns, so that's good. So that's what happens when only the government has the guns.
Just to be clear here, none of the people on the grounds of the Capitol had any firearms on them? Not a single one. Really? Not even though the Secret Service said 80% of the people that were at the Ellipse just an hour earlier listening to Trump's speech didn't go through the magnometers because they saw people in the crowd that had firearms they didn't want to go through that all marched to the Capitol building. What, did they drop their gun off at a hotel? Did they give it to a friendly police officer? Did they find a fellow DC BLM guy to hold onto their rifles?
Not a single gun was ever recovered or on record at the January 6th insurrection.
Oh, recovered.
And what type of an insurrection?
How many pipe bombs were found
That's a great question, actually. Who laid those pipe bombs?
We don't know. We never found out.
We don't know. How convenient. The government can recognize somebody's earlobe in a video and track them down and go arrest them in the middle of a hurricane, by the way. The FBI went into North Carolina in the middle of a hurricane. And
by the way, just because they can identify some people and can't identify others, like, if it wasn't the pipe bomb, then it'd be, it's strange how they haven't identified that guy or that guy or that guy. And there were so many people that day. As far as I know, do they have any good photos or videos of the person who put the pipe bombs outside of the DNC and the RNC?
Occurred.
Because I don't know if they have or haven't. I haven't seen any evidence of that.
Enthusiast has donated $5. Sorry I'm late on this, but can we stop being naive and call this no tax on tips? Wordplay is what it is. A way to make bribes easier to hide.
Well, I don't know if it's a way to make bribes easier to hide. I think it's a way to win over votes from the service industry. Thank you for the $5, though.
Arrested somebody, but they can't find who laid the pipe bombs. They have no idea. And Kamala Harris doesn't remember where she was that day either, even though one of the bombs was allegedly right outside.
And people were linking in chat like evidence of people being arrested around the Capitol with guns and afterwards being arrested with thousands of rounds of ammunition. Yeah, no, that is true. There was also, of course, police officers who claimed to have seen guns and stuff like that. But like none were officially seized at the riot. And so that's usually the thing that's defended upon to say, what do you mean? But I mean, there were people who were arrested with firearms. They did come to the Capitol with firearms. Just there was nobody like in the Capitol building that were caught and arrested with firearms or anything like that.
Out of her office, she has no idea. She's changing her story. But what type of an insurrection?
No one is changing the story. You guys filmed this.
Kamala has changed the story.
We can watch you guys cheering for it. We can watch you cheering 1776. What was 1776?
I know you hate 1776. I know you hate that.
What was 1776?
If you're cheering for revolution, 1776 to me sounds like a call for revolution. Like, oh, it's 1776 again. We're revolution again. While you're storming the Capitol, the storming, the violence, the attack is 1776 again. Sounds like a call for revolution, insurrection, in fact.
76. What was that?
That was the founding of the country.
Which was it? What was the event? What would you call that?
When we overthrew royalty and created
against the government,
created a constitutional republic.
Would you call that an insurrection?
No.
No. 1776. The revolutionary. You wouldn't call that an insurrection?
So are you pro-insurrection now? You just babble.
Well, no. His point isn't that whether an insurrection in and of itself as a concept is good and bad. Some insurrections are good. Some insurrections are bad. If you're insurrecting to stop slavery, I'd imagine that would be good. If you're insurrecting to overthrow the results of a democratic election, I think that would be bad. Just don't be like, oh, now you're pro-insurrection. Well, you can be pro-1776 as an insurrection, but not against the idea of starting a civil war over whether or not Donald Trump won the election when he obviously lost it.
Stammer so much I can't figure out where you're at. Tell me what kind of an insurrection when an emergency notice goes out to go home, everybody goes home and calls it a day. Is that
what kind of an insurrection ends when the leader tells his followers to go home? All of them.
Perfect.
That's kind of how it works. That's how a cult works.
So there was no insurrection. Trump didn't want to overthrow the government. Thank you for admitting that. That wasn't too hard to get out of you.
Where did he even get that? He just asked the question, like, what insurrection ends when they send all their followers home? All of them? Well, thank you for admitting you were wrong. What is he? It's like he's talking to somebody who isn't there.
Basic logic.
No,
1776 was an insurrection. It was a
now
revolution.
You're deflecting again to 1776.
I'm not deflecting.
So
I'm referring
Trump
specifically.
Wanted to insurrect
it's just
the
funny
government,
that you stand outside saying 1776 and go, well, is this really an insurrection? Well, I don't know. What were we cheering for? The Star Spangled Banner? Was it choir practice?
Actually, they were singing the Star Spangled Banner, something you'll never hear at a Democrat event.
Mike Pence. When Donald Trump said Mike Pence needs to do the right thing, what was he talking about there? What do you want Pence to do?
So in the history of the United States, there have been multiple times where a party rejects the results of an election, and all 3 times prior to 2020, it was the Democrat Party.
Really? You want to walk? Let's walk through those. Let's walk through those. Do you want to go through? Do you want to go over the when it happened in 1960 in Hawaii, when the only reason why they submitted 2 different slates of electors, which were both authorized by the state legislatures, because there needed to be a recount? You want to use that one, or do you want to go back to Ulysses S. Grant, the one that happened prior to the ECA even being passed? Right? Where the whole reason why that law was passed was because it was such a clusterfuck of an election. Which one do you want to go to? Do you want to go to Gore, where Gore he gave up that election?
Dude, somebody just said he's flat-footed. That's exactly what it is right now. He's flat-footed. He just doesn't know how to be flexible to this. He just thought he was going to throw his bullet points out, but each one of them, one after the other, is getting dragged down into the mud. And instead of defending them, he just shifts to another bullet point, but then immediately that gets dragged down too. He's under pressure, man. He's been under pressure the whole time. Destiny's been able to set the tone of the conversation from start to finish.
As soon as he lost to the Supreme Court, where there wasn't even a delay in the electors voting in Florida, let alone a January 6th certification. The problem is you don't know anything. You have no facts for any of this. And the strongest facts that you can attest to, you no longer can because you're scared of being sued again for defamation. So obviously, you're just going to sit here and ramble on some crazy shit. That's why you won't admit that 1776 was obviously an insurrection. That's why you were cheering it on outside and you thought you were going to be the winners of that insurrection instead of the losers. And it's why you won't admit now to obvious facts that are right in front of our face.
Every election in the 21st century, the Democrats have denied they lost.
Which vote
They denied
certification?
that Al Gore lost, they denied that John Kerry lost, and they denied that Hillary Clinton lost. And yes, they went to Congress and tried to stop the certification of the vote.
Really? What did
that
they do
has
for Gore?
happened every
What did they do
time.
for Gore?
And they'll likely do the exact same thing.
There's nothing.
When Trump wins in 2024, they'll likely do the exact same thing, just like Raskin has already said. The Democrats are already plotting not to certify the 2024 election because they know Trump is going to win.
It's fantastic delusion.
It's mainstream news. Anybody can pull it up on their phones right now. Jamie Raskin won't certify election results. Go ahead, plug it in.
A single legislator, Jamie Raskin, which, by the way, he's a congressman from my state, Maryland. Well, somebody can go look up on their own time if what he's saying here is true. He's an INFOWARS host, so take it with a grain of salt. But that's versus the leader of your party and the leader of the Republicans in the House, Mike Johnson, who was leading the effort against certification for Donald Trump in the House, as Rudy Giuliani was trying to coordinate it as the rioters were charging the building. I mean, this is stark difference. A few voices in one party versus the leader of the other party. It's not the same. It's not the same, even if you were to take what he's saying at face value.
We only have
You got it right there, don't you? Yeah, it's right there.
We have several minutes of the open.
Do you think Gogeta or Vegito would win in a fight? It's frustrating. I guess the saddest thing is that as much as I can't stand conservatives because I'm a liberal/progressive, at the very least, I felt like we were all kind of in the same boat. We were all kind of like the same country, and we were all presenting at least a unified front to the rest of the world. That as much as conservatives and Democrats might have hated each other, at least we were all Americans at the end of the day.
And when did that change?
When did that change? Well, a big change.
When Donald Trump became president of the United States. And they lost their mind because they couldn't control him, they couldn't bully him, they couldn't get him to bow down to political correctness. And so this is
Donald Trump's main campaign chant outside of Build the Wall was lock her up, as in imprison Hillary Clinton. And he was constantly trying to use the Department of Justice to go after his political opponents. And he called for it, even though he's constantly talking about it happening in the reverse direction. And now that he's running again, he's again throwing out threats about arresting his political opponents, suspending the Constitution. He was a divisive candidate from the get-go. That's how he got attention. That's how he got his face out there. He was somebody who insulted his opponents. Once he got elected, everybody got dicey and too aggressive towards people's political differences, and it got partisan and too divisive. No, he was a divisive candidate from the start. Calling his opponents their parents serial killers. He called Ron DeSantis a kitty diddler. He's a divisive guy.
is them stuttering.
And if you're wondering about the kitty diddler thing, he accused Ron DeSantis of doing inappropriate stuff with his minor students.
Bully him. They couldn't get him to bow down to political correctness. And so this is them stuttering and spamming all over the place like lunatics, trying to get Donald Trump killed, assaulting Trump supporters, and lost their minds. Why do you think Elon Musk left the Democrat Party? Why do you think Tulsi Gabbard left the Democrat Party? Why are so many...
Well, maybe because the Democrats want to tax billionaires more. Maybe because Elon Musk is kind of little miffed about, you know, his child being, you know, not agreeing with him on issues of gender, and maybe that's being projected to some extent. It could be any number of things, man. It could be, I'm not in Elon's head. Am I supposed to assume that the richest man in the world, when he shifts for his political leanings, it's in the interests of me?
Democrats like Vernon Jones leaving the Democrat Party because this is your Democrat voter right here. Nobody wants to be a part of this psychotic movement anymore. Nobody.
Psychotic movement when you guys
Yes,
literally
psychotic.
tried. You guys invaded the Capitol.
Your side believes in trans kids.
Who wants to
Your side wants to pay for trans surgeries in the prisons.
You guys,
Trans kids. It seems like the fallback plan for both Trump's campaign ads for this guy. I mean, they put $20 million into that Kamala trans surgery ad. I mean, they really put money behind it. They think it's strong.
Your side lets in 10 million illegal immigrants. Your side starts wars all over the world. Our side is the party of sanity and the party...
Democrats didn't start the war in Ukraine. Democrats didn't start the war in Gaza. Hamas did October 7th. And then Netanyahu has been not conciliatory since then, to say the least. Russia invaded Ukraine back in 2014. They continued the occupation through 2014 to today through the Obama, Trump, and Biden administrations, and then they expanded to a full-scale invasion. They did those things. We didn't start those wars. We did not start those wars. There is no need to blame America for everything in the world while calling yourself a patriot.
Party of common sense. And if you can't see that in this debate, then you're never going to see it.
You're never going to. The party of sanity is the party that doesn't believe in dinosaurs and thinks that we create hurricanes.
What are you talking about?
Do you believe in dinosaurs? You think
what is this dinosaurs? What are you talking about dinosaurs?
Do you think the dinosaurs ever roam the earth?
Dinosaur toys?
Do you think the
Why do you bring this up?
Do you think the dinosaurs ever roam the earth?
Is that a dinosaur on your necklace right there? What is that?
Do you think the dinosaurs roam the earth?
I'm not here to talk about dinosaurs.
Why? Just I'm not here to talk. I mean, what could, if he doesn't think dinosaurs roam the earth? Crazy. I mean, what could he do besides dodge it, really? Because if he says yes, then it's going to be silly as all hell. And he's going to completely shoot his credibility with anybody that's not already in his crazy-ass camp. Because everybody learned about dinosaurs since being a kid. And unless you grew up in some super radical creationist household that allows you not to talk to anybody that, I mean, archaeologists or anybody that examines the Earth's natural history, then that's going to create almost like a revulsion at the ignorance, I think, in most people. This, and him dodging it is an answer in of itself. It's still not as bad as if he was to say, of course, dinosaurs aren't real or something, but it's pretty bad. Destiny must have gathered this in advance, this little tidbit of information that the guy who was debating doesn't believe in dinosaurs or something, because it came out of left field.
This up.
Do you think the dinosaurs ever roam the earth?
Is that a dinosaur on your necklace right there? What is that?
Do you think the dinosaurs roam the earth?
I'm not here to talk about dinosaurs.
It's insanity. It's crazy to me.
You know what? You're a political dinosaur. You're stuck.
Wow, he got him. He changed my mind with that one right there.
In the past. This is the future right here.
You don't even acknowledge the outcome of the last fucking election. How am I the one stuck in the past? You guys lost in 2022 for the same reason.
Everything you're
I don't think he's dealing well with the crowd laughing at him. Look at his
election. How am
I don't know, man. Looks like a wounded antelope. Looks like a wounded antelope to me.
The one stuck in the past. You guys lost in 2022 for the same reason.
You believe everything you're told from the mainstream media. You're right. There's no government corruption. They don't rig elections. It's never happened. The government is great, guys. The government loves you so.
He's gotten to the point where he's just saying like, oh, isn't it? He's just listing the points again with a silly tone in his voice to make his argument out. Like, oh, of course, the government's to be trusted. Like this, he's given up on making his arguments, and we still got like 45 minutes left to go, and it seems like he's already tapped out, and he's gone to like silly voice tactics now.
So much, and the mainstream media would never lie to you. They would never do that.
Let's say that I did believe everything from the mainstream media. The mainstream media is a conglomeration of how many different large corporations with how many different editors, with how many different people involved that have how many levels of accountability, as opposed to the alternative media, a company that you just came from that's now bankrupt because the owner got sued for defamation for telling so many lies.
The most anti-establishment free speech organization in the world
the freedom
is
speech guys.
INFOWARS.
Yes, the freedom of speech guys.
That's why we get shut down.
True, exactly.
That's why
it
we're
wasn't
under
for telling.
attack.
Yeah.
You want to know what happens when you speak truth to power? Everything this guy just said. I've been censored, I've been imprisoned, I've been assaulted, I've had my businesses shut down. This guy's dealt with nothing except cucking to his wife's boyfriend.
I see those 60 days in federal prison weren't kind to you. I'm sorry that you weren't able to do the podcast from prison like you wanted to. I know that's still upsetting you a lot. Only one of us up here has been arrested for trying to be a part of a coup or an insurrection against the United States. Only one of us up here hates this country. And I think it's pretty obvious it's the guy that doesn't even acknowledge the results of the last election. One of the most important foundational pieces of the United States.
So stop stealing them. So stop stealing them.
Which is
so stop stealing
no one
them.
is stealing it.
So
no one is
stop
stealing
stealing
it.
them.
Why don't you vote?
So stop
Show up at the
stealing
polls
them.
and vote.
He's
Vote via
hysterical.
the opportunities that are available to you.
For Q&A now. So we are
He's seething, man.
Audience
He does not look happy.
might go in and out.
Maybe I'm projecting, but he does not look excited, at least. You cannot, I would say that in this moment, he's not particularly satisfied with his performance.
To have Q&A with the audience.
I'm waiting for that little flag pin of him to just fall off. Just blip. Tie to go undone. Handkerchief falls over. He goes to pick it up. Pants rips. Falls down. Cries.
Mike might go.
I don't know how
in
much
just
bad,
a bit.
how much worse
So
this could really get for him.
I might be switching back and forth
With Owen.
but we're going to have people line up in the middle aisle right here. This
Piece of
thing right here, you'll see it once you're in
line. If you could stand.
behind that. I'll be holding the lapel mic up.
So I'm being a little crueler than usual. I'm not trying to. I just have zero respect for him, honestly.
In lieu of.
So if you have any questions, please come on up. We're looking forward to it.
Oh boy, Harris Waltz. Everybody's lining up. I'm gonna go use the bathroom. I'll be right back. I'll make it quick.
All right, thank you very much. And I'll hold on to the microphone just because we want to encourage everybody, when you are asking your question, if you could keep it as pithy as possible, getting right to the question. Thank you very much.
Owen, on January 6th, when Trump was saying Mike Pence really needs to come through for us, what did he want him to do?
So, leading up to the 2020 election, in the name of COVID, a bunch of states changed their election rules, and they didn't follow the actual laws to do so. They didn't go through the state legislatures. So Donald Trump wanted to have those things reviewed in a legal process, and he needed Mike Pence to refuse to certify the results so the legal investigation could play itself out, something that's happened multiple times in U.S. history. So also, they wanted to review signatures. They wanted to review mail-in ballots, which we now know, thanks to investigations that have been going on for the last 4 years, some ballots were sent from empty parking lots. Some ballots didn't even have signatures on them. And in fact, the illegal votes that were now discovered in Fulton County from 2020 outnumber the votes of margin of victory for Joe Biden. So that's what he was asking Mike Pence to do. Mike Pence should have did it. He refused, and so the rest followed.
So then to reiterate, he was telling Mike Pence to not certify the winner of the election who actually won the election because of his delusional belief that there.
Sorry to do this to you all and to my future editor, but we're going to go back and hear what the question was again, so I don't miss any beautiful, beautiful content in any of the questions.
Owen, on January 6th, when Trump was saying Mike Pence really needs to come through for us, what did he want him to do?
Send it back to the states, which was in his constitutional authority, just like they did in Hawaii, just like they wanted to do here, just like they did. Sorry, man, it's just the talking points are like, you know, for people who call their opponents NPCs all the time, you can't really, after doing this for enough time, predict the attack patterns. Like a bad Zelda boss.
So, leading up to the 2020 election, in the name of COVID, a bunch of states changed their election rules, and they didn't follow the actual laws to do so. They didn't go through the state legislatures. So Donald Trump wanted to have those things reviewed in a legal process, and he needed Mike
Somebody just said this guy looks like Kadyrov. He looks like one of Kadyrov's children, a little bit, a tiny bit. This seems you could see this guy like controlling some like chocolate company under Kadyrov. Like the kid gets assigned to, you run one of the chocolate companies we took after beating the previous owner. Yeah, I could see it a little bit.
To refuse to certify the results so the legal investigation could play itself out, something that's happened multiple times in U.S. history. So also they wanted to review signatures. They wanted to review mail-in ballots, which we now know, thanks to investigations that have been going on for the last 4 years, some ballots were sent from empty parking lots. Some ballots didn't even have signatures on them. And in fact, the illegal votes that were now discovered in Fulton County from 2020 outnumber the votes of margin of victory for Joe Biden. So that's what he was asking Mike Pence to do. Mike Pence should have did it. He refused, and so the rest followed.
So then to reiterate, he was telling Mike Pence to not certify the winner of the election who actually won the election because of his delusional belief that there was voter fraud, of which you're admitting wasn't discovered, I guess, until years later, although that's probably bullshit as well.
Pull it up, it's mainstream news.
It's not.
That's for both.
Yes, literally multiple lawsuits.
All of them failed. Literally every lawsuit has been demolished in every state court. Yeah.
All right, we're going to jump into the next one.
All right, for both of you, what happens to the Republican Party if Trump wins this election? He can't rerun, so what happens?
President
after?
J.D. Vance, President Trump Jr.
Who knows? Everybody around the world, everybody in the United States is looking at the Republican Party for nobody knows what it's going to look like after Trump. If he loses, they don't know if he's going to run again. If he wins, nobody knows if Trump will just be happy to win and be a lame duck, or he'll go full authoritarian monster mode and try to take apart as much of the government as he can, or what the Republican Party will look like afterwards, because the Republican Party has to fall in line to Trump, or he will destroy your career or destroy your media network. Two things he's done before plenty of times. Who knows?
Just real quickly, Georgia voting fraud allegations result in criminal charges. Georgia Bureau of Investigations, arrest made in Brooks County voter fraud investigation. So I can go on and on. Here's the 19 people charged in Georgia election fraud case. So it's a real story. But I'm sorry, did you say if Trump wins or if Trump loses?
They did not fraudulently put in enough Democrat votes to get Biden over the top, which led to them losing this day. That didn't happen. It didn't happen.
What if he wins?
If he wins. Well, I think what happens is probably the same whether he wins or loses. I think what Trump has done is he's basically remade the Republican Party, and so you kind of have the old neocon establishment type that you no longer see at Republican events anymore. George Bush is not a popular Republican. Dick Cheney is not a popular.
Lindsey Graham. I mean, like, these people will still exist. They'll resurge after. They'll get more influence after. And plus, if they still continue to hold the positions on Israel that they hold, like, I think just with time and effort, like, I don't think that's going to be difficult for these people to either rework their way into the party, number one, and number two, for Trump to pick up their positions when convenient, as he does on Israel.
Popular Republican. John McCain is not a popular Republican. Even Nikki Haley and Lindsey Graham get booed when they go to Trump rallies. So that's kind of the establishment right, if you will. The Republican voter base and really the populism that is behind the Republican Party has now, behind Donald Trump specifically, I think has now taken it over. So I don't think that's going to change. I think future candidates are going to sound more like Donald Trump. They're going to sound more like Vivek Ramaswamy. I think the message is going to be smaller government, true conservatism. I think the message is going to be stop funding foreign wars, foreign aid. I think the message is going to be bring back manufacturing, mostly common sense stuff. But I think that the thrust behind this populist movement is that we understand there's government corruption, we understand that there's mainstream media corruption, and we want a representative as our president, as our representatives in Congress, who know that, who talk like us, who think like us, and aren't going to be afraid to say it out loud. So I think it's kind of a permanent reformation of the Republican Party post Donald Trump, whether he wins or loses this election.
If he loses, I think it's going to be an opportunity for, the Nikki Haley types to try to wrestle it away from the party with the argument of, look, he's lost twice in a row. He's never won the popular vote anyway. This might be good for our base, but it's not good for, winning independence. We need to take a different view. I don't know. It might be a chance for them to reform, but it depends on how close the election is. If it's as close as people are projecting and he barely loses, then I think then it's just going to give more time for it to fester and it could get worse. If it's a big loss, if they take a big L, I think that's better for the country. And I also think it's better for the party because they'll be able to, take a step back maybe and try to reassess.
Well, my question is geared mostly towards Shroyer. You mentioned no foreign wars under Trump. In 2017, on Inauguration Day, I deployed and we dropped a record number of bombs in a single deployment on Syria until our record was beat by the Truman the year after that. What do you mean no foreign wars under Trump?
Just call him a liberal fake veteran.
So are you referring to the airstrike?
Just attack. Never surrender.
The airport strip?
No.
Which one are you referring to?
The fight against ISIS during Operation Inherent Resolve.
Okay, so I would say that was a war that he inherited. I would say he didn't start that war.
So if he inherits a war and then continues to fight it, how can you exclude that? Like, if you were truly taking the isolationist playbook, it'd be like, look, let's just leave. We don't need to fight ISIS. It's not a problem. Bye. Like, why is it you're going to cut out these exemptions for the wars he maintained? Like, I think there's a good reason to fight ISIS. But if you're taking your isolationist worldview, he gets in there, he pulls out. Why fight ISIS? Why fight any terror group?
I think it was an inherited war. Now, you can argue whether you think we did good in that or bad in that. We could sit here and argue about the Biden pullout of Afghanistan. I think these were wars that Trump inherited. The decisions he made to try to end them, just like the decisions that Biden made to try to end them, you can debate. But he didn't start any new wars. So I think that's the distinction here. These were wars that were already ongoing.
He talked about it. I mean, the invasion of Venezuela, talked about invading Mexico, bombing Mexico. And like the Soleimani strike, that was a really razor's edge. And then he downplayed the injuries the U.S. troops after. Like, I mean, despite his best efforts.
For years and years, past administrations, Obama, Bush, Republican, Democrat, didn't matter. So I wouldn't say that was a started
Also, what war did Biden start? Because I saw he was trying to pin him on Ukraine. Biden didn't start the war in Ukraine. We don't have American soldiers dying in Ukraine. Russian soldiers are dying in Ukraine. Ukrainian soldiers are dying in Ukraine.
These were wars that he inherited. But I think that the general perspective to understand is that you didn't have the massive conflict in Ukraine, you didn't have the massive conflict in the Middle East, which we hope doesn't engulf us now, but they are now sending troops to both of those regions, and so I'd like to see that. I don't think there's enough being done by Trump either to stop these wars, to be honest. I'd like to see all these foreign wars stopped. I want to decouple from Israel. I want to decouple from the Middle East. I want to decouple from all of these foreign wars. I don't want anything to do with it. I don't even care if it makes us isolationists. We don't need the rest of the world. We can build everything we need here. We have enough energy here. I would decouple from all these foreign countries, internalize everything, and get out of all these wars to begin with.
Do we get to answer as well or no?
If you're able to keep the
like, he escalated bombing of Afghanistan. Like, he didn't have to escalate bombing from Afghanistan. And like, what did he use that leverage he was trying to assert from that escalation? Which, by the way, sounds very similar to what Nixon tried in Vietnam with his escalation of bombing. I mean, it's different situations, but like, I mean, the same tactic is generally being applied there diplomatically. And what did he do with that leverage? He negotiated the Doha Agreement, which, I mean, with the Afghans not even there.
Rebuttals as pithy as possible, because otherwise...
The fact that there were no wars going on is ridiculous. Crimea was still invaded and held by Russia. The civil war in the Donbass that was being supported by Russia was still going on. And in the Middle East, you had the occupation of Crimea was 2014.
Obama.
Okay, was Trump not president when it was occupied? Exactly. And then the civil war in the Donbass, where Russia continued to escalate by sending in more troops and more forces. Did that happen under Trump?
So this is hilarious. They say Trump-Russia collusion.
And then also for the Middle
Can I
East,
answer? Are you
no,
It's not an answer. You just want the Trump-Russia collusion. That's not related. You're trying to pivot to something else.
You're not going to answer because you don't have an answer to the question.
Like a baby.
That's why you're doing a ramble right now.
They say Trump-Russia collusion.
Russia collusion. Holy shit. We got our joggers on today.
He just admitted
When it came to the Middle East, there was also still conflict in the Middle East. You had Iran attacking Saudi Arabia for the first time ever. You had the entire border riots, Great March of Return, lasted for about a year in Israel. And you still had all the conflict in Syria. So the idea that there was no conflict in the Middle East is also delusional.
Okay, so again, the question was new wars. Russia invaded Ukraine when Obama was president.
Can someone not get blamed for expanding a war? And then he restricted the data on the drone strikes too. So expanding wars while restricting the data on it.
Russia invaded Ukraine again when Biden was president, not when Trump was president.
this whole conversation is so American-centric on foreign policy. It's like, if we just had a different president, surely, if the Russians thought that the government was going to collapse in a week, what would increase or decrease or whatever amount of aid matter unless they thought that Trump would send American troops into Kiev to die fighting the Russians? Do you guys think that Trump would do that? Do you guys think that with Trump and Putin's relationship in 2018 from the Helsinki summit and their conversations, that he would send those troops to go do that? He might try some diplomatic play, but in the 5 weeks that the Russians thought they would capture Kiev, maybe by the end of that diplomatic play, they'd already have all the physical leverage anyway. Like, point is, like, to suggest that this is a war that necessarily could have been affected by who was in office by anything else than a radical break with current American policy on Ukraine, which Trump showed no incentive whatsoever to break in that way. I don't know, man. I think you're kind of leaving a lot to be just assumed.
I want to know you guys' opinion when Trump was president, when he tried to isolate America on a global scale from groups like NATO and try to go closer to countries like Russia or China.
Autarky is basically this idea that your country can be its own country and not rely on the rest of the world for anything is stupid. It's subversive to the concept of America, the idea that we are a global trading partner, that we can ensure global peace and prosperity through ensuring trading lanes, ensuring these giant multilateral trade agreements so that we can have access to other people's markets, so they can have access to our markets. You saw what happened when the Houthis started shooting missiles at ships. What happened? The United States showed up and they said, hey, no more of that, and they shut it down. And trade through the Suez Canal continued. We wouldn't be able to do that in an America supported by Trump or Trumples because they believe, somewhat naively, that we can just withdraw entirely from all of the global world markets and still be as good as we are now, that we wouldn't be able to rely on any of the manufacturing from any other country, we wouldn't have access to any of those.
Yo, I saw these when I was with the FPV crews on, I think it was the Volk-Chaz axis. These are real things. So I'm going to talk about this in the documentary I'm making on drone warfare, but that's not going to release till really late this year, probably December. When you're in there, you can not only show the footage of your own drones going out there, you can intercept the Russian footage. So while you're looking at the screens, randomly there's a screen up in front of us while we were down in the trench after there was like this close mortar call, we had to jump in. And we were watching, and it would just randomly show up Russian feeds from their FPVs, and you could see them as they were going to target. And situationally, we didn't see it while we were there, but you know, there's the idea that you could possibly intercept the feed of a drone coming to hit you and you could see, and then you could disperse. And so like the counterance to FPVs and the way this could be used is still being experimented with. But this is like one of the few examples I've seen of it actually being recorded by what looks like the Wall Street Journal of this happening. Sorry to interrupt this to show this, but this is really cool. So this is a Russian FPV feed being intercepted by this Ukrainian drone team coming to hit their position, and they intercept the actual impact. That's their position right there.
Ебать прикольно. Нам треба з'єбувати.
It's crazy. It's also crazy that the Wall Street Journal can release this. They must have lost this position, or something must have happened, like they've abandoned this position and the whole building is destroyed. Because if I got this footage like this, I would never be able to publish that because it shows where their position is. But since it's already hit and they already know the position, I guess they wagered, you know, the Wall Street Journal could probably get more attention, so it is what it is. But my goodness.
Markets in the way that we do now, like why would we want to take our country back so far? You know who tried stepping away from giant unified markets? It was the United Kingdom via Brexit. Their economy is not doing very good right now, so I don't know why that would be the model that you would try to emulate for a country who has built so much success off of so much cooperation with the rest of the world.
The concept for America.
Also, New Ukrainians React this Sunday. They're going to be reacting to a lot of alt media stars: Tim Pool, Jimmy Dore, Crystal and Sagar, Tucker Carlson. They're going to be reacting to a lot of takes. So tune in this Sunday on my main channel, DylanBurnsTV.
America is actually independence, okay? It's independence. So yes, we can be independence. And I think we learned a lot from this recent port strike, where they just ended it a couple weeks ago. We learned that most of these ports are actually owned by foreign companies. That's a problem. We should own all of our ports. We should make money off of all of our ports, and maybe we wouldn't have this issue. But I think that there's a general attitude here. See, I think conservatives versus liberals, if you hear what he just said, conservatives believe we can. We believe in the American people. We believe in American companies. We believe we can manufacture and produce goods.
We believe we can, unless it's asserting ourselves on the international stage. Then we believe we can't ever, because, you know, the intervention is, we can't win in Ukraine because Russia, glory, never lost the war.
Just like
we can, unless it's a moment where we actually have to face adversity, then immediately retreat inwards.
For years, we used to have manufacturing plants in all the inner cities, and a man could get a job and make a living wage for his family and buy a home. They've all shipped those overseas. We can bring those back. We have plenty of energy here in the United States. We have innovations in energy. We can go nuclear here. We don't need the world. It's true. But that
you don't need the world. How is Trump? You're voting for Trump. Trump says that if we lose the dollar as the international reserve currency, it'll be like losing a war. And then you're like, we don't need the world. How can you be so stupid and inconsistent? It's actually mind-boggling.
That's the leftist liberal attitude is, oh, we need everybody. You need everybody. You need government. You can't make it on your own. You can make it on your own. America can make it on its own.
Hey, Destiny, I love the all green. Owen, maybe we size up on the jacket next time, but my question has to go.
Damn, now the audience is making fun of him. Well, I feel bad for him. Almost.
To the gym, brother. That a boy.
I'm getting there.
Flex.
Thank you.
Hey.
Destiny, you claimed that there was no money being given to foreign illegals for housing. They weren't buying houses. You're correct on that. But Christopher Rufo did a story. $3.8 billion from the ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act, was given to the state of Colorado, who in turn gave it to Boulder, Denver. They gave...
Couldn't it have at least been like Newsmax?
$5 million to resettle migrants. $350,000 of that a week was going out to migrants to pay for them in one apartment building. This was the CBZ, owned by CBZ Management in Aurora. Huh?
Press you into a question.
Aurora, right? So this was the same building that was taken over by illegal gangs. I'm wondering.
We've gotten a third panel guest. I didn't know that. I thought we were, I thought it was a question time, but it's okay. Third panel guest. Why not? Far be it from me to deny a panel.
You can sit there and say that there's no American taxpayer money going to these people when they're there doing it and taking over our country, literally.
Taking over a country, literally.
Okay, so, I mean, there's a multitude of problems with the question, but I'll address the question in the best faith. I mean, if money is given to Colorado and Colorado spends that money on illegal immigrants if they choose to do so, I mean, that would be an issue that you would have then with Colorado and not necessarily the federal government. But also, you also said that they were spending the money resettling migrants. That doesn't sound like money spent on illegals. It sounds like money spent resettling migrants, which is not illegals. But if I take the strongest version of your question, I mean, it's pretty undeniable. I'm sure the United States in some capacity spends money on illegal immigrants. I know that we provide housing, we provide, I'm pretty sure, food stipends. I know there's like some card that these guys obsess over that asylum seekers get when they come in here. They're waiting for their court cases. Waiting time that would have been dramatically reduced, by the way, if they would have passed the legislation in Congress that they shut down because Donald Trump wanted to keep the border open for the election. I'm sure the United States spends money on illegal immigrants. I'm not saying they don't. I just think that the idea that it's just the illegal immigrants that we talk about are like fucking Captain America. Like, these guys come in and they have like 50 kids, and then they steal all of our welfare, and then they are buying all of our fucking houses, and then they're also working all of our fucking jobs, and they're like, I don't know how they can do fucking everything. I don't know if they maybe the reason why Biden did so poorly in the debate is because all the adrenochrome was going to the crazy, legendary fucking illegal immigrants or whatever. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm sure we spend money on illegals. I wish we had comprehensive immigration reform. I do think that spending money on America is important, and I think that's a good argument. I think that when you look and you see, okay, well, even if it wasn't $200 billion, Destiny, it was $20 billion. Why are we spending $20 billion in Ukraine when my neighborhood is fucking falling apart, or my city doesn't have?
Well, Trump will just say like it's double what the current rates are for Ukraine aid, and it'll then just start randomly millions upon millions of dead people that just don't exist because those deaths didn't happen. It's not millions upon millions upon millions.
the money to pay for these things that I think are important? I think these are good questions.
These are completely made up numbers.
Okay? Democrats are not the ones that are trying to cut funding from schools and from cities and from infrastructure and from healthcare. When the fuck was the last time you heard a Republican say, we need to stop funding the war in Ukraine so that we can fund single-payer healthcare? We need to stop giving money to Israel so that we can do something about the homeless or the drug addicted or the mental illness in society. It's never like that. It's, we need to stop funding here, and then we need to cut as much spending domestically as possible so that what, the fucking free market is going to take care of your problems? What, is Bezos going to walk you to the fucking ER and pay for your medical bill? Like, it's just insane. So I agree, I can understand, like, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. The United States is a huge federal budget. We can pay for a lot of things, and I do think that sometimes our spending is a bit sad, but when you look at who's taking money away from spending on things like healthcare or childcare or any—
Instead of just spending time just rebuking what Owen Shroyer would do, which I imagine if this was like we got a PolitiFact fact checker here to debate him, is probably what the entirety of the debate would be. He is spending a decent amount of his time to try to establish an alternative worldview and solution for people's problems, despite, in comparison to his cut all the taxes and everything will be great worldview. So he's making sure to spend time to propose an alternative worldview when I thought it was going to be mostly just like fact checking. So this is good. He did it from the start of the debate, and he's still doing it an hour and 14 minutes in question time. So he is establishing it quite well.
Multitude of things that we need money spent on in this country. It's not Democrats, it's fucking Republicans. And the idea that cutting funding to some foreign war would all of a sudden open their hearts to domestic spending on welfare is ludicrous.
Actually, I'm a Republican, and I literally just said we should take money from foreign wars and spend it on America. So I literally—
But you said on America. What does that even mean?
Really just said
on
that.
America. What is on America? You want to cut all the other taxes. You wouldn't have any money to do anything.
And I also think it's funny.
Healthcare?
No, I didn't say that either.
Yeah, of course you didn't. Yeah.
But if you have more money in Americans' pockets, they can afford their own health care. See, if you get the government out of the transaction, then Americans have more money.
How does money going?
Okay, so he doesn't want to spend it on America. He just wants to. But these things are. This is why his point about Ukraine doesn't even make sense. And Dusty's brought this up twice now. But a lot of this isn't even money. It's like, what we're going to give these 113s back to the people? What are we going to do with them?
Ukraine come back to American pockets if we cut the funding there.
So if government has $1 million and they spend $500,000 on a foreign country, how much money do they have left?
It's not how he doesn't know how it works. It's probably everything we talked about today.
Well, the government, they run deficits. You should know Donald Trump had the biggest deficits of all time. So
the answer is $500,000 versus what could have been $1 million. It's basic math. But it's funny, he now admits that we do pay for illegal immigrants.
You said earlier that the rich people are the ones who paid most of the taxes. So if the government stops spending, then the rich people are the ones keeping the money. Are they just going to give it to the poor people?
Which they do.
Everybody's over.
The rich people do pay the most of the taxes, so thank you for at least bringing a small fact check here, because that's what now he has to admit that yes, we do pay for illegal immigrants, and we shouldn't pay for any. We shouldn't pay for a single illegal immigrant, and they love to play this game with, oh, they're migrants, or oh, they're asylum seekers. They rewrite laws, they rephrase things so they can get away with these excuses, and then use their buzzwords like immigration reform. We don't need immigration reform. We need to follow the immigration law. We have immigration laws in this country. There is a waiting process. There's a process you go through to become a citizen. That's what every person should come into America and go through, versus some select, maybe some circumstances where you come in here on a work visa when you already have a job lined up or you have a job that we need. So they love to play these games. And by the way, yes, Colorado did have to request money from the Federal Emergency Management Agency. That was literally a request. They had to get the money from the federal government to pay for these illegal immigrants that are all over all of these blue cities. And by the way, you notice another thing too. The Democrats are always complaining about the state of the education in this country, and rightfully so. It's in the
say anything new?
Tubes.
Sorry, I don't have anything to say because it's all just the same stuff retreaded.
Who runs the education department? The Democrats.
Yeah. Hey, Destiny. I wanted to talk about, there's sort of this growing rise in like social conservatism among Generation Z youths. And I sort of wonder, as a 22-year-old, where I see a future in the Democratic Party for me, as someone who kind of leans left economically, more probably left-wing economically, not leans left, but someone who's sort of like center-right socially. And I just don't really see a future right now. And so I'm kind of wondering, should the Democratic Party try and appeal to this growing rise in Gen Z voters? This is according to a Gallup poll and a Pew Research research poll done in the last year. Should it try to appeal, or should it just kind of leave us in the dust? Because the Republican Party, I don't see a future where they start caring about Americans and funding single-payer health care and funding housing, unfortunately. But at the same time, I'm a bit unsatisfied with the Democratic Party's social turn. And so, yeah.
I think that the goal should be to tell all of your friends to vote for Kamala Harris so that the Democrats can win with the largest margin possible, so that we can load all of the insane fucking college tankies and progressives up into fucking Elon Musk's spaceship and send them off to the fucking moon, okay? I mean, this is an issue that I talk about a lot. The far left of the party is fucking crazy, okay? That's like, nobody can deny that. I fought with the far left, honestly, probably more than Owen has, when it comes to insane people. There's a reason why I'm banned from Twitch, and it's not conservative. It's because of crazy people on the far left. That being said, something that I think is good to keep in mind is the far left is politically non-existent. There are no far left lawmakers. Even people like AOC and Bernie Sanders now are called Israeli genocide supporters by the far left. All of the college kids have now abandoned, Elon and Rashid, like all of the Justice Dems and Bernie are all completely, off the table now. They're not radical enough for them. So I think that trying to win with the largest margin possible, so that on social media we can continue to ignore these people because that's the only place they exist, is important. But the radical element of the Republican Party is like 95% of the party. Okay, like the last YouGov poll I saw, I think said that 25% of conservatives, probably Owen included, believe in satanic sex cults. Okay, that like Hillary Clinton and Podesta belong to. Okay, where they perform blood sacrifice rituals on children. All right, this is an 80% of.
Can we get clarification?
Conservatives, Owen definitely included, don't believe in the results of the last election. This is like the big majority bulk of the party, and that is very scary, and it is a huge problem. So I agree, far left is super fucking cringe. I hope that Kamala wins with enough of a margin that we can safely eject these people and never listen to them again. They can all go vote for Jill Stein.
I'd like to address you for a second too, if you wouldn't mind. So I think what is important for young people, you can stand, you can sit, it doesn't matter. I think what's important for young people to understand is the broad difference between what the right wants to do politically and what the left wants to do politically. You're going to have issues you agree with some leftists on, some conservatives on, and that'll probably go on the rest of your life. You're more of a centrist. But I think you need to understand what the core is of the modern day left, and this rings throughout history. The American left, the Democrat Party, cannot exist without power. They need power. They want to tell you what kind of car you can drive.
Isn't that all political part? What does that even mean? The Republican Party wants power. Trump wants to change the immigration laws in a major way. That's power. Trump wants to continue to support Israel with military aid. That's power. They want power. He also wants the power to be able to trump all of these cases while being the president of the United States. That's power. He wants the power to go after his political opponents and drain the swamp. That's power. It's all power. What the fuck does that mean?
Without power. They need power. They want to tell you what kind of car you can drive. They need power to do that.
Trump wants to tell you that, look, if you overturn Roe versus Wade and make it so that the environment is now that the states that support you large in part are now making it so women cannot control their own bodies, and girls who get raped, young girls that get raped, are not able to get abortions. Like, that is a type of power over people that was expressed during his term through his Supreme Court appointments. That was his power, and he brags about it. He says everybody wanted Roe versus Wade overturned. It's a lie, but that's what he says, even though polling indicates the majority of Americans wanted it to stay the law of the land. That's power.
They want to tell you what kind of...
I think that's a good thing. I think
okay.
Regulating people's cars so we can try and create...
So then you might like that. But I just think you just need to understand, it's important to understand the core values that, yes, if you want to tell people what kind of car they can drive, what kind of food they can eat and all that stuff, well, you need power. You need political power to do that. And so that's where the left goes, where the right wing believes more in self-government. We want you to decide. So yeah, you might have to say, well, I guess if I believe an electronic car is better for the environment than a combustion engine, then I'm going to drive an electric powered car, but maybe my neighbor I think is a worse person because he doesn't drive one. That's the difference between self-government and the government deciding what you need to do. So they need power to do it, where the right wing believes in self-government. So I just think it's important to understand kind of the core principles. I want to address something you just said, satanic cults. Again.
Oh no.
Are you going to deny that there was an Epstein Island? No. Are you going to deny these Diddy parties where they're having all these things?
What does that have to do with a satanic sex cult? You haven't proved that Diddy's part of that or that Epstein was part of that.
Wait a second. How many
I don't
how many
understand.
photos was Kamala Harris in with Epstein?
He didn't say that there's no pedophiles in the world. He didn't say, did you just, Destiny, are you saying there's no pedos? What? No, he said there's those satanic sex cults controlling everything.
No.
How many
Did
photos
you
was
read-
Donald
okay.
Trump in with Epstein?
Did you read?
See the silence?
Did
Crazy,
you read?
isn't it?
There's no silence. You just won't shut up. Did you read the WikiLeaks emails in 2016? Did you hear about Abramovich? Did you hear about the spirit cookings? Did you hear about the children in the hot tub for your entertainment? Did you read these emails? This is all public information. Anybody in this room can go look at the WikiLeaks emails. The Democrat committee emails invite Marina Abramovich to spirit cookings, and they have children in the hot tub for your entertainment.
Okay.
I know that sounds crazy, but I'm telling you, go home,
Yeah, you
look
think?
it up. It's all public record. It's all real.
Wait, all of
So
that is
you can
public
laugh
record.
it
All
up.
of that is real. All of that is super true.
Yes.
Why didn't Donald Trump do anything about it?
I wish he would have.
So then why would you elect him again? He failed.
Because I vote
He fired
pragmatically,
Comey, he put in his
and
own
I
guy,
know
he
that this
fired his
country
AGs,
will be
he put
better.
in his own guys.
See, you exist in a cult. I don't. I'm a pragmatic
The guy that you're
voter.
advocating for is a fucking loser. He failed on everything you want. At least I can point to Biden and go, look at the CHIPS Act. Whereas Donald Trump said, we're going to tear up China and bring back manufacturing. Nothing happened. At least Biden got a bill passed and did something. Whereas Donald Trump said, we're going to do more for infrastructure than we ever have. He did fuck all. At least Biden passed the infrastructure bill, right? When Donald Trump talks,
That's going
he
so
fails.
well.
What's going so well?
hey.
The infrastructure bill? Yes, it is.
So
There's
throw
been
the
a ton of
babbling.
money, more than ever
Just-
before,
if you-
allocated to
I
domestic
understand. It
construction
sounds
projects.
crazy, brother. Believe me.
Okay.
I love Destiny. Look at my shirt, bro.
It's a great shirt. I'm sure he made some nice money off that shirt because he's a capitalist like everybody else. I'm just telling you, I would probably have thought I was crazy when I was your age too. But when you dig into this
Well, when you get my age, you start knowing about the satanic sex cults.
stuff and you realize your government is extremely corrupt, your mainstream media is extremely corrupt, most of the celebrities that we look up to are extremely corrupt. These are the ones that are telling you how to think. And so, yeah, I don't like that. I don't think you should like that. And you would be stunned if you saw what was in those Democrat emails that he's pretending is not true. So you don't have to call it a satanic cult, but you can go look. Marina Abramovich, Spirit Cookings, Democrat Party emails. You can make up your own mind after you read them.
Why was Trump in a picture with Epstein? Why was he on the flight logs?
Who cooperated with the FBI when Epstein was trying to bring girls into his trafficking ring at Trump's clubs? Donald Trump.
Trump's clubs?
Yeah, Donald Trump. Epstein was at Trump's clubs trying
We
to
know
recruit
he's got
young
security
girls.
cameras in there because we saw all the documents from the Mar-a-Lago thing. So what, was Donald Trump just sitting there
Trump
jerking
said
off
he
to it the whole
liked them
time?
young.
or-
No, he was cooperating with the FBI. He literally cooperated with the FBI. And when did Epstein get arrested?
cooperated with the FBI?
When I
When
say that, I mean that Trump said of Epstein that he's his friend, but he likes him young.
When did
President, he
Epstein
didn't
get
use the
arrested?
FBI
Epstein
to
got
go after?
arrested. So now the Epstein thing is real. So see, now the Epstein thing is real. Now he has to accept
Wait,
that
what
it's
is the
real, and
Epstein
now he's
thing?
talking
What is
about
the
it.
Epstein
Bill
thing?
Clinton flew on Jeffrey Epstein's plane
So did Donald
dozens
Trump,
of
more than
times.
Bill Clinton.
Donald Trump did not. Donald Trump helped bring Jeffrey Epstein
What?
to
He
jail
did. He
and
was on his
prison.
plane.
He's the only president that did so. Donald Trump cooperated with the FBI when they were investigating Epstein recruiting young girls. And notice all the people that were friends with Epstein, all the people that went to Epstein Island, all hate Donald Trump.
I think everybody hates Donald Trump. I mean, that's
And
not really a
even
fair
Elon Musk.
metric. I mean, like even his
Yeah,
last vice
everyone
president
hates
hates
Donald
him.
Trump.
I mean,
Everyone
you know.
hates Donald Trump, but there were millions of people at the insurrection. Everybody hates Donald Trump, but he's the most popular person in the world. Yeah, everybody hates Donald Trump. Clearly, you didn't walk around campus today because a lot of people actually love Donald Trump.
Yeah, because
And
they
by
got
the
people
way,
like you
why did
brainwashing them.
Elon
Everybody
Musk-
that's worked with Donald
I'm sure
Trump
you-
hates
I'm
Donald
sure-
Trump.
I'm sure you're-
Everybody that
hey,
spent time in
I'm
office
sure-
with Donald Trump. There's a reason why 42 of his 44 last
You love
cabinet
the
members
government.
won't
This guy
endorse
loves
him.
the government. You
The
love
government
the
is
government.
part of the thing that keep. What do you think
What is it in relation to the point he's making?
America is? Do you think
I'm
it's just
sure
a piece of
He's just rambling about nothing related. He's just grabbing for whatever he can grab onto.
land? What is the United States? Self-governance. But now when it comes to abortion, self-governance when it comes to what kids read in school libraries, when does the self-governance
Abortion,
stop
when
and
there's
the
a-
Christian
when
virtue
there's a
signaling
beating
begin?
heart, when
By the
there's
way,
a beating
Christian
heart- oh
virtue
my
signaling
God.
following a man who doesn't even read the Bible, who can't even say John 3:16 when asked for his favorite Bible verse, a guy who cheats openly on all three of his wives and then steals campaign
still
funds
love him.
and steal campaign. I know you love him because there's nothing he could do
His
that would make you
wives, his
not love him.
ex-wives still love him.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. That's why they divorced him.
Bruised, man.
Man, that is just, it's hard to concentrate with so much yapping in my ear.
Don't worry, it's how we all feel watching INFOWARS. Or
Oh, they all
used
watch
to.
INFOWARS! They all watch INFOWARS. I love it. So there you go. So Epstein is real. So first it's, a fictitious satanic cult. But now it's real. Now he admits it's real. So
No, he didn't. He admits that Jeffrey Epstein was a pedo. Nobody disputed Jeffrey Epstein being a pedo, but that does not extend into a DNC influence satanic sex cult.
It's amazing. See, when things progress in the conversation, eventually everything he has to admit, everything I say he eventually has to admit is real.
What? Next question. Bizarre, man.
Hi. I don't know if this is a great segue or if my question won't matter anymore, but this is for Mr. Shroyer. What is one, other than the Sandy Hook crisis actor thing, what is one conspiracy theory on the right that you think is not true?
I mean, I don't think
This is hard,
I don't think they used weather weapons to steer this last hurricane. That's a recent.
So why was he talking about the lithium deposits?
One. Past that, I mean, you'd have to be more specific. I mean, there's a lot of things. Basically, I would say if I don't report on it, I don't believe it's true. There's a lot of rumors out there about Tim Walz that I think are fake. So most of the Tim Walz stuff I think is fake. I don't believe it. So there's just a couple of recent examples.
That's a good question.
Hey, how you doing?
For those of you who don't know what's going around about Tim Walz, there's a rumor that he did something to like a 14-year-old child that used to be a student, but it's completely from an anonymous Twitter account. It just claims to have a source. Nothing's been posted. And a lot of these alt media accounts have shared it around as if it was a serious claim, getting millions upon millions of views on Twitter. But there's like nothing to it, like whatsoever. Nobody stepped forward. There's no evidence being presented. It's all just like anonymous Twitter accounts saying breaking. Soon something will be revealed, and then nothing is ever revealed.
During the 2020 election, if the quote-unquote government could have stolen the election, why didn't they do that in 2016? I think that if you're going to be a conspiracy theorist, you should like apply your conspiracy theories consistently.
I think that's a great question. I think that's a fair question. And I think Hillary Clinton is still pissed off that they didn't steal it for her. But there's an actual practical answer, as I said. They changed the laws because of COVID, and they allowed all of these mail-in ballots. Millions
So until 2020, the elections were safe and valid and not riggable. But C-19 provided an opportunity to change all the rules, and so they could rig it. That's the argument. So this all-powerful establishment needed C-19 as an excuse to do this, but also they're all-powerful. Like, why didn't they just steal it last time? That doesn't answer the question. I don't think. I mean, it's a partial, like, I see where he's going with it, but it still doesn't make sense to me. Shocking. I know.
Mail-in ballots around the country. Some of them were going to casinos, gas stations, empty parking lots. You didn't have that in 2016. You didn't have videos like in Philadelphia or in Atlanta where they shut down the polling locations and then people stay and triple count ballots. So we know what was different between 2020 and 2016. It's a fair question, but those are your differences. They were different. They were different ways they were counting ballots. There were different ways to vote, and that's what ultimately changed the results. But if you go back and you look at the graphs, this is going to be the thing that should blow anybody's mind. If you're a fair observer, go back and look at the graphs. In Georgia, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, Trump was winning all day long until 3:30 in the morning, and the vote for Biden goes straight up, right at the buzzer, straight up, and then they declare the states for Biden. Anybody would have to be honest with themselves and say that there's something wrong there.
In Fulton County, the people accused of running the ballots over and over again were Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss. Will you own that opinion right here and say that they were triple counting ballots?
No, they were actually not charged.
They were what?
They were not charged.
So it wasn't them, it was somebody else?
Yes.
Okay, so the reason why he's very careful of that is because he's been through defamation lawsuits now, and he knows
because I know the facts.
He knows that the original
facts.
claim that multiple ballots were counted, or that the same ballots were counted multiple times in Fulton County originated. It was fabricated, whole cloth, from Powell and Giuliani about Fulton County from those State Farm Arena videos. Not only did Ruby Freeman and her daughter Shay Moss sue Giuliani over that, Giuliani came out and said, yeah, I lied, but it was my First Amendment right to lie. And believe it or not, that doesn't actually work for a defense in a defamation suit. That's why he lost that case for $148 million, and like his business leader, Donald Trump, is now declaring bankruptcy.
Nothing.
Probably only have time for one or two more questions.
INFOWARS Cup.
Awesome. Hey, Destiny, MAGA Republican. You talked last debate with Doyle about the dinosaur stuff, And then this debate with the dinosaur stuff as well. I don't know what's going on with the dinosaurs. I believe they exist. What's up with that? Do they not, or what's going on?
A couple years ago, I was kind of depressed. I realized that, like, in the era that we live in right now, in the whole Donald Trump MAGA stuff, nothing personally to you, but it feels like nothing can ever happen again that isn't a conspiracy. And now every single thing that these people talk about is a conspiracy. The 2020 election was stolen. COVID was fake, but it was also a manufactured bioweapon. The vaccine, even though it was warp-sped by Donald Trump, was evil because it was something to do with billionaires and Jews, even though Israel is the country that had the uptake of the mRNA vaccine more than any other country. The mRNA vaccine was bad because it was
this is a waste of time, man. Answer his question.
Emergency use authorization, even though the monoclonal antibodies were great, even though it was the same thing. The issue is that every single one of these MAGA people, I'm answering his question. Every single one of these MAGA people.
About dinosaurs.
Yeah, because you guys all believe in insane, unhinged, crazy shit, and then you try to run away from it. You're on stage because you're too cowardly to own your fucking opinion, right? You won't own any of it. That's why you're up here and you're like, oh well, maybe they don't have things to change the hurricane.
Blah blah blah. Brought up dinosaurs tonight was you.
Earlier
Can you answer the question so we can get to another question?
Yeah, because I think it's worth it for the audience to see, like when media entities that, by the way, are wholly aligned with you, are fully funded by Russia, like Tenet Media, by the way. I think it's good to be able to show people. I think it's good to be able to show people what's happening.
My bank records have been combed through, as he's mentioned, the lawsuits against me, the government's against me. So yeah, if there was anything sketchy there, they would have already found it. So
I'm just saying it's interesting that these people all align wholesale with you in opinion. Yeah, I just think it's funny that conservatives don't believe in dinosaurs. They think that oil is a self-replenishing thing. They think that we couldn't have gone to the moon. They simultaneously don't believe that we went to the moon, but they do believe.
I don't know if you should keep saying conservatives wholesale. There's a lot of people who take the label of conservative. Some people who aren't going to be voting with the Republican Party this election. I know it's just basically like a replacement for Republicans or Republican base or like conservatives online. It's like it's kind of like being used as like a whole cloth term for that. But I don't know. I feel like it might just turn some people off.
Believe in Elon's rockets.
That's why I like the word MAGA movement more.
They talk about George Soros and billionaire conspiracies, even though Elon Musk wants to put a fucking microchip in your brain and he owns companies that are digging fucking tunnels beneath Las Vegas. Like, it's just insanely hypocritical. They believe in every single conspiracy theory. The wildfires in Hawaii were caused by Jewish space lasers. They think that every fucking war in the Middle East is some, like, I already answered the dinosaur. You guys don't believe the dinosaurs are fucking real. It's a debate. We're allowed to fucking talk.
So here's what he's doing. Modern day Trump supporting conservatism is a big tent.
That's what I want to point out.
Is a big tent. So yeah, there's probably crazy people that believe this stuff.
Not
just
big
like
enough for the
there's crazy
dinosaurs,
people
though.
that believe crazy things about the right. These people all believe Trump-Russia collusion, which was fake. These people all believe that the Hunter Biden laptop was fake. It was real.
Trump-Russia collusion, that was fake?
Mainstream leftism. I don't know what he's talking about with Democrats and dinosaurs or Republicans and dinosaurs. I don't know anything about that. That's not conservatism. That's some fringe people that happen to vote Trump because they still, even though they don't believe in dinosaurs, are smarter than him.
Was Roger Stone working with Donald Trump's campaign? Wow, the silence. There it is. Yeah, because he knows where this line of questioning goes.
Yes.
It wasn't. Trump-Russia collusion was not fake. There was collusion between Trump's campaign and between Russia. It happened. Where do you think the DNC leaks that he's so excitedly talking about came from? They came from Russian hackers, and Roger Stone was talking to all of those people. It's laid out all in court indictments.
Hey, so for you, big guy,
thanks for the
a
primer.
couple points and then a question for you. And
Who's winning right now? Oh, I don't know. I think James is winning. That's who I think is winning.
To close this out, you brought up marginal utility of dollars
thanks for the tier 1
related to Owen's flat tax proposal. That cuts both ways. There's also a marginal utility of services. You say that Democrats aren't for voter fraud, yet they're suing the state of Virginia for removing illegal aliens from their voter rolls. You say that the evidence of the January 6th insurrection is that people wouldn't go through the magnetometer and there must have been all these guns there. But if you actually watch the videos that you claimed, you would see hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people there that couldn't possibly fit on the ellipse, which is the size of this freaking room. Okay. So you want to make fun of Owen for big tech removing his First Amendment rights, and everyone around here wants to clap for him being imprisoned for being a First Amendment journalist. What's it like?
Come on, get on with
to be
it.
so intellectually dishonest?
Wow. So it was just all an insult. Thank you.
It sounded like the last question for Owen, but I'll answer it anyway. You're not allowed to break into the Capitol and try to prevent the peaceful transfer of power.
See the police opening the door.
He's still
Who was the first person into the Capitol building? That's because you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. So why the fuck are you asking me a question like you do? The first people into the building were the Proud Boys. You can watch it. It's all on tape. You motherfucking retards videotape the entire thing. It's in 4K HD, 60 frames per second. Live streamed on YouTube. They were covering it on INFOWARS saying patriots are coming in. How did they do it? They stole a riot shield and they bashed in the window. You can watch it on video. Really? How much do you want to bet? You want to bet $5,000 right now? The first guy into the Capitol was let in by a police officer. You want to bet $5,000 on that right now? That the first person in wasn't charged with a crime, isn't on video bashing the window in with a riot shield that he stole from a cop? Exactly. That's why, because you don't have any money left to lose. Okay? No, it's bullshit. The first people that breached the Capitol grounds were the Proud Boys. It's all on video. The first people into the Capitol building were the Proud Boys. It's all on video.
My politics have cost me
anti-American and
everything.
treasonous. You hate this country.
My politics have cost me everything, and I'm still up here fighting the good fight because I actually love this country, unlike this guy who's lost nothing. He's lost nothing except his integrity. That's all he's left is his integrity. And I'd like to, I don't know if you want to do more questions or if you want to do final comments. But everybody, again, he sits here, we could fact check this guy all day long. The doors have magnetometers that have to be released by the Capitol Police. You can sit there and watch them release the doors, and then the cops open them and usher them through. He keeps saying it's on video, it's on video. Yes, you're right. That's literally on video. I've been in the courtrooms. I've shown it on video. You haven't because you're a good government stooge, and you'll probably be protected by the corrupt Justice Department.
None of that is true. Go look it up. Look up.
What is that even protected from? What? From what crime?
To the Capitol. Go look it up. Go see who got indicted for it. Go see who got convicted for it. It wasn't police officers letting people into the building.
We have one more question.
This is for Shroyer. You mentioned that the immigration laws were changed under Biden to make it easier to seek asylum, and then you mentioned something about the CBP One app. As far as I'm aware, the app didn't change any immigration laws, but it made it so that appointments must be made for the app rather than further congesting the border, making it harder for the border workers to do their job. In fact, they're being sued by Amnesty International for allegedly making it harder for people to seek asylum. So my question is, what laws do you believe were changed, and what do you believe the app is doing to make it easier?
So there's basically no screening when it comes to the asylum process now. Anybody can come in and apply to be an asylum seeker. They can get on this app, file the asylum seeking process. They don't check your ID, they don't do a background check. You just fill out the form and you're in as an asylum seeker, and then you can fly into the country. You can get a flight as well. But I understand. Okay, let's say I can't convince you that.
Liberty.
Okay, let's get the political wonk out of the way, and let's just talk realistically here. 3 straight years. Record number of border crossers. I won't even put a term on them. I won't say illegal, I won't say asylum, I won't say anything. 3 straight years of record number border crossings. That's just a fact. And most of these people come here, if not all, well, probably not all, because a lot of them just escape into the country. Most of these people come here and they get free stuff immediately. You're paying for it. You're paying for their travel.
Something actually done by Biden to make that easier. Like what changed?
I just told you, they changed the policy. They're not stopping people. Anybody can get in. Anybody can get in. No, it wasn't always the case. You used to have to seek asylum in the country next to you, or you used to have to go up through a background check before you could even get into the court systems and come into this country. They would hold you into a detention center or a prison before you could come into this country. Now they just let you in. That's the big difference.
Who changed that?
Joe Biden, the Biden-Harris administration. That's why illegal immigration has gone up every single year. There's been a record number of illegal border crossers. That is a fact. And they all, and I wonder if they would even come here if they weren't getting the free stuff. I wonder if they weren't getting the free lodging, the free travel, the free food, everything else, the free welfare. I wonder if they would even come here at all. I think if you cut out the welfare state, you cut out the welfare state and the open border, I doubt they even come here at all. And no other country, no other sane country on earth would have an open border and a welfare state, by the way.
Given time got away from me, we have to jump right into the closing statements. Sorry that we didn't get to the last 2 questions. We are going to start it off with Stephen's 3-minute closing. Thank you very much. Stephen, the floor is all yours.
I think conservatives are delusional. I think they hate this country. I think that they are more aligned with the interests of Donald Trump than they are with anything having to do with the concept of the United States of America. I think it's incredibly sad because I think as much as I used to disagree with conservatives, at least
look, if all you can see the value of somebody like leaving like violence and gang violence, like the only value you could see for somebody making that journey is the amount of welfare they can get from the government and not the job opportunities or the safety or, you know, this ideal of America that used to be held in high regard within the conservative movement. I think like they've completely forgotten like the immigrant story, or like at least the narrative that, you know, was really something that carried immigration to this country, helped build this country to what it is today. Kind of sad, really.
Stood on principle for the United States. I think that today, if another 9/11 happened, I think that conservative MAGA people would be more interested in blaming Kamala Harris than uniting around whoever our common enemy was. And I think that's why you have people like Donald Trump on stage begging and pleading for Russia to release 10,000 emails, or constantly giving praise to foreign dictators, to people like Orban, or saying that he wants his citizens to stand at attention like they do with Kim in North Korea, and why he has so many good things to say for all these authoritarian leaders like Putin, but he can't find any support from other democratic leaders around the world. I think it says something about him. I think it says something about the type of people that would support that. I think it says something about him, and if you have good parents, they told you this, if you can't look at a person, look at who their friends are, or look at who they work with. The idea that his vice president is not running with him again, that should send huge signals to your brain of what's going on here. Where is Mike Pence? Why does Mike Pence say, in contrast to you, that Donald Trump told him to unilaterally choose who the election winner would be? That's Pence's accounting of things, right? Why is it that so many of his ex-cabinet members, over 40 of his ex-cabinet members, won't endorse him for president? Why do you get four-star generals, people like Mark Milley, saying things like Donald Trump would be a fascist? Why do you have Donald Trump himself saying, I would suspend or terminate parts of the Constitution and be a dictator on day one to do the things that I need to do? Why would you have Donald Trump try to weaponize his DOJ to go after his political opponents? Why would he call into Fox and Friends and say, I think the DOJ needs to start indicting and arresting people, and then accuse Biden of doing it despite the fact that you have absolutely no evidence of it happening, except for maybe pointing to New York State, which isn't even the federal government? Conservatives are just living in an entirely delusional, disconnected from reality world. I hope that after this election there's a huge wake-up call. I guess we'll see what happens. I wish that people could look at this country and see that we genuinely do have problems that aren't always caused by the Jews or illegal immigrants. I wish that we could come together and work on some problems rather than fabricate out of whole cloth these issues that aren't even real issues or don't even exist. I wish that when issues that really were presented against this country, like illegal immigration, were put in front of Congress to solve, that the Republicans would be behind it, along with the Democrats. And I think that when you look at the record of leadership, when you compare the Biden administration, of which Harris is a vice president, you saw all of the bipartisan legislation that they got passed, and you compare it to Trump's administration, that was a failure in every single conceivable way, whether it was his inability to actually end conflict in the Middle East, he didn't, whether it was ability to actually solve problems with legislation, he didn't, or whether it was his ability to lead a coherent country that was falling apart under BLM riots and COVID lockdowns and all sorts of other things, COVID, of which he didn't even acknowledge was real until it was already, tens or hundreds of thousands of cases in this country. And you can see how much he undermined it, how much that bothered him, because he couldn't even get credit for the vaccine that he so desperately wanted his audience to worship him for. I hope that after this election season, I hope we can come together a little bit better and be better Americans and be on the same team again.
It's a good wrap. I mean, we still have Owen's outro. We'll see what it is. We'll see the final ending statement from Owen. But I mean, this was like a top-tiered performance from Destiny. I mean, he's had maybe better performances online, which is, the environment he's most familiar with. But I think this might be one of his best, if not his best, in-person debate performance I've seen. I think a lot of this has to do with the opponent he was dealing with and just his inability to dig his toes into the truth, and just him shooting his credibility in front of the audience again and again and again. So even if he does tell the truth on anything, Destiny could easily kind of dismiss it, and God, man. And Destiny stayed good on providing the counter narrative, making sure the conversation went point by point by point to not allow his opponent to create a grand narrative with badly supported pillars, badly supported facts that hadn't been properly broken down, to be like, wait, let's examine this a little closer and make sure that you're not lying about this. And I think he's held his feet to the fire for really the entirety of the conversation. And for Owen, I mean, this was a record poor performance. He did not have the ability to fire back much for the entirety of the conversation. And in every key area, he seemed to be held down and smashed around, and he'd be able to get some fire back in some areas, but it wouldn't last long. In the periods where it did happen, it still was murky. I mean, the best he could do is like hold his own for a little bit, but then that would always be followed immediately by him finding some way to just stomp on a rake. So, I mean, just record poor performance. Let's watch the outro though.
Owen, you have 3 minutes.
Okay. He says conservatives hate this country, yet look at my story, look at Donald Trump's story. I came here tonight, I took the time to prepare myself so I don't look like a slob, and I put my American flag lapel pin on because I care about this country. I came here despite, yes, lawyers watching
He's wearing a suit.
Me all the time, trying to sue me like ambulance chasers.
He's being sued.
Federal government watching me all the time because they want to throw me in prison, and I continue to come out here because I love.
He went to jail.
Love this country. Don't tell me I hate this country. I love this country.
Suit, jail. He loves this country.
This guy comes presented tonight looking like a slob with a Finding Nemo necklace on, okay? That's how serious he is. And by the
Finding Nemo? What? It's not. It's like an emote from chat. It's not. It's not Finding Nemo. Why would he try to make a reference if he doesn't know?
Nemo necklace on, okay? That's how serious he is. And by the way, how about Donald Trump? He's been shot at. He's had multiple assassination attempts. They go after his family. They bring him through the courts as well. And he's still fighting for this country. Let's not act like it's conservatives that don't love this country. It's flag-waving conservatives that sang the national anthem on January 6th. They sang the national anthem when Donald Trump went back to Butler, Pennsylvania, where they shot at him. You won't even hear a Democrat sing a national anthem. They kneel for the national anthem. They hate this country. Pretty much everything a Democrat says is projection. And by the way, on the vaccine thing, I disagree with Trump on the vaccine, but it's funny. You notice when Trump was president with the vaccine, Kamala Harris and everybody said, don't take the vaccine, it's the worst. As soon as Biden got in, they all loved the vaccine. Did you take the vaccine? I sure hope not.
They didn't all say, don't take the vaccine, it's the worst. They said during the preliminary testing and development stages, as Trump was trying to speed it up, not to immediately trust it just because Trump said to trust it, to listen to experts. That was Harris's statement.
By the way, ask yourself this. How much money is spent on elections? Billions of dollars.
This election, Open Secrets predicts will be $15.9 billion when it comes to how much the campaigns are firing out, how much this election is going to cost. Something, isn't it?
Why is so much money spent on an election? Because power. That's why. Power. So ask yourself in follow-up, are elections ever stolen? Is there ever any voter fraud? Can you really tell yourself no to these questions? Or are you going to sit here and believe everything the government...
Have you ever looked at any question or any system? Have you ever looked at the system and just put a question mark over everything with no He's not making an argument. He's just saying questions. Questions. Not a point.
Government tells you, and everything.
It's just a demand to question things.
The establishment media tells you. And you notice that's where he goes with everything. He keeps citing people that work for the government their whole lives. He keeps citing mainstream media talking points. So you can choose to live your life trusting the mainstream media, but guess what? You're going to be the one that's deceived. You're going to be deceived about war in the Middle East, weapons of mass destruction, Russian collusion, the vaccine is safe and effective. You name it. They deceive you on everything, and he comes up here and parrots their talking points and acts like he's put in an effort tonight. And just for clarification, Pence was not asked to decide who the winner was. He was asked to delay the certification. So let's just, again, get that straight. But in closing, I would say this. You have two choices. It's very simple. You can either be pro-establishment, pro-big government, pro-mainstream media telling you what to do, how to live, pro-government telling you what to do, how to live. You can accept that our government and our media has been corrupt for decades. Probably everyone in this room's entire life, our government has been corrupt. This is not a message for the right. This is not a message for the left. This is a message for Americans. We have a corrupt government. We have a corrupt media. That's what we're addressing. That's what we want to overthrow. Those are the people trying to stop Donald Trump. That's why I support Donald Trump, and I hope this reformation with a populist anti-establishment movement in the Republican Party is here to stay.
Thank you very much to both of our speakers. Thanks so much for coming out tonight.
And that's the debate. Anything? No.
Subscribe button. And
Nope. Also, we missed the intro where Owen tried to shake Destiny's hand and Destiny did not reciprocate. We missed that at the start, so Destiny wouldn't shake his hand either. So this was a disrespectful start and then a complete dogging for the entire debate. Poor showing for INFOWARS. They lost the information war. This was the info war, and it has been lost. Now they are just info. Okay, that's enough of this. I streamed for 5 hours today, and I'm still a little sick, so I should get a little bit of rest. Plus, I want to finish editing the second episode of Ukrainians React that I want to release next Sunday on the 2024 election. So I want to get that done if I'm going to be able to do that. So I want to get a little bit of work done on that and then go to bed.